Hello and welcome to episode number 105 of James Bond Radio. Today we're going to be talking about the second half of Octopussy, which is all very exciting. My name's Tom Sears and I'm joined by my good buddy Chris Wright. Say hello, Chris!
Hello, Chris!
Now, are you more excited or less excited than last time? We all know Octopussy is a special film for you. Are you more excited about the second half or equal or what? How's it going?
I don't know, it's an interesting question. I'd say probably equal. I think the last one, just because it started it off, I was like proper pumped for that. That was really good. But this time round, equally excited to talk about it. And I was a bit unsure whether the second half would match up to part one. But I think it definitely does. I think there's a lot to be garnered from part two as well. So
brilliant, good stuff.
Bring it on.
Now, in other news, it was your birthday last week, wasn't it?
You're
a proper old timer now. Did you get your pipe and slippers out and stuff?
I actually got some slippers and a pipe for my birthday, and a flat cap, and a dressing gown with a JB. It's a yellow one, so that's quite cool.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it was really good actually. I was with family. We were kind of glamping, but not really glamping. But one thing that's really cool, we went to this castle, called Goodrich Castle, and it's quite a good one. The battlements have been sort of cannonballed and all this sort of stuff. And I had my nieces and nephews with me, and outside the castle there was this little wall, and they were just sort of running around and playing games. And then they started climbing up this wall, which was probably like a good head and a half of what they were, maybe more. And one of them just jumped off. And I was like, bloody hell. That's like, it's equivalent of you and me jumping off like a 10-foot wall.
Good Lord.
And they just leaped off. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So then that got me sort of thinking. And then I got them all sort of doing these jumps and little parkour runs along the castle walls and stuff like that. So I thought there's some future sort of parkour.
Training up some mini malakas for the future.
Exactly.
I like
it. Hopefully they won't be bomb makers, but so long as they're
indeed,
as long as they're into the running,
as long as you harness them for good, the powers of good, then it's all good fun.
They're to stop the bomb makers. So there we go. I got a couple of Bond related presents as well. I got Heads You Die, which is really good.
Oh, lovely.
I haven't started it yet, but I'll get a good read into that. And I got a book. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's a beast of a book. It's called Bond by Design.
Very nice.
I don't know if you can see it there.
Yeah.
But I've had a quick flick through, and it's got loads of pretty cool pics in there.
It's one of those like gigantic books, isn't it? It comes in like a hardback sleeve that you like pull it out. Am I right in thinking that's the case?
Yeah, exactly it. So plenty to keep me going. I've still got loads to crack on with from elsewhere, but it's good. Good times.
I'm going to start reading. Speaking of Heads You Die, I'm going to start reading that very soon because it's been in my queue and I'm just finishing the book I'm reading at the minute, and that's the next one. So I'm going to get stuck into a bit of that.
Maybe we could do like a mini review of it once we've both had a chance to go through.
Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
So speaking of young Bond and Heads You Die, he's only old Steve Cole. He's only gone and got a little bit too excited and written an entire another book that's coming out very, very soon, which is crazy, isn't it? Like that's incredible. 2 books within a few months of each other, which is obviously Strike Lightning. We've talked about that before, and the cover art to that has been revealed, hasn't it? And there's a little sort of nod to classic Bond on that cover, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Definitely. So this time we see a nice must be a steam train, I think, but we definitely see a train and Bond sort of jumping around, and it's quite apt. Obviously, Octopussy that we're reviewing has a train scene, but if you think train scenes and Bond kind of go hand in hand, you've got obviously from Russia, famous one. You've got a great one, even in the most recent one, Inspector. There's the train scene with a fight with Hinks. Obviously, Jaws in Spy. There's a lot of really, obviously, GoldenEye as well. Alec Trevelyan's train. There's a lot of really cool train scenes, and I think that's a good way to go. So I'm intrigued to see sort of what he does with that as well.
I think there's like when you consider what young Bond is, it's like obviously it's way more fantastical than normal Bond because he's a kid running around in it and stuff. Yeah. But like I like the fact that they gradually introduce classic Bondian tropes bit by bit, and you like, like Charlie Hickson did the thing with the Bentley, didn't he? And I think that was in the third one, if I remember correctly. And just all those like classic parts of Bond's character slowly sort of coming in. So seeing like him on a train and stuff in this book, that excites me, man. It's cool. Like though I always think I would love to go on one of those trains where it's all like wood paneling, like the Spectre train, for example, with the dinner car and all that stuff, and get suited and booted and have like proper dinner on there and stuff. And that to me is just like classic Bond there, because that's like the sign of a time gone by that we don't really have anymore. Like usually now it's just triangle sandwiches out for plastic wrapper, isn't it?
It is, which it's not quite the same,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, that would be cool. I'd love to do something like that. Although you'd always have to keep your head, you know, look over your shoulder and just in case some big dude's about to kick the table in or something completely. Like that. Yeah, but that would be good. And I also think like you can do stuff in the UK that have got like Pullman cars and stuff like that, and you can do day trips. And obviously the Orient Express would be pretty amazing as well, because then you're really going Bond then, aren't you?
Yeah,
one day maybe. Yeah, that'd be cool.
One day, coolio. So we've got some new Bond comic book action coming out from Dynamite Comics, which is there's some interesting stuff going on here, isn't there? So tell us about that, Chris.
Yeah, so it's kind of changing a bit now. So you know, obviously they released their first, I think it was a 6-part series called Varga, and then the second one was Eidolon or Elion, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it.
Eidolon, I think is how you say it.
Eidolon, sorry, that's the one. Yeah, Eidolon, that's it. And now both of these obviously were through Dynamite Comics, and they were written by Warren Ellis and illustrated by a guy called Jason Masters. Now this third one that's due to come out is through Dynamite, but it's different. It's by different people. So it's titled Hammerhead. So again, it'll be a 6-part series. This is written by Andy Diggle and illustrated by Luca Casalegna.
That name makes me giggle, Andy Diggle. Sorry. Go on, carry on.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I still, and I kind of like give myself a slap over the wrist about this, but I still haven't delved into this whole comic book side of things, you know, the new ones, and I really should do, and I do feel quite bad because I'd like to see what it's all about and stuff. But now they've got the third one, it'll be interesting to have a look. But in addition to that, now this is really interesting, there's also a planned period piece about Bond's life just prior to Casino Royale. So what happens to him, obviously, just before we get to that. So that would be quite cool.
Yeah.
And also, there is a direct adaptation of Casino Royale itself, which is going to be made into a graphic novel, which is obviously, again, slightly different. But that could be quite cool. Could be quite dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that one, I think, is scheduled for November release this year. So
there's a lot going on there. So that Casino Royale one, do we know if that's a period piece as well, or is that like an updated modern version of, or do we know what the deal
I'm
is?
I'm assuming it's a direct adaptation of the actual novel. So it'll be set at the same time. It'll be, you know, at that sort of in the same locations and everything like that. I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure, but it'll be quite cool to see how they do it, I think.
I tell you what is interesting, like there's been a lot on the interwebs lately about people suggesting maybe expanded universes, like the whole Marvel and Star Wars thing where there's multiple movies and stuff going on in all different directions. I don't think that's possible with the movie Bond, because you've just got one character. Star Wars has 1 million characters you could make series about, and that's, you know, there's a bigger well to draw from. And I think if you did that with Bond, you'd ultimately dilute the core thing. So I don't think you can do that. But in all the supporting stuff, books, comics, maybe even computer games, I think there's a world that could be tapped in that sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for this, they've got like a modern day, you know, the Varga and Eidolon is all very modern day Bond. And then you've got, you know, old school period Bond. And then obviously you got young Bond books and all the rest of it. Like, I feel like that's how you expand the Bond universe. Do you know what I mean? And I want to read things about in between the famous missions, kind of like Trigger Mortis, like what happened before Casino Royale, what happened when he was in the Navy, all that kind of stuff. Like, how did he first get recruited into the Secret Service? Like, there's so much that you could do there without like pillaging and ruining the film series, isn't there? I'd say bring that stuff on.
I completely agree, and I think that is exactly, well, we're seeing that already, aren't we? But I think that's going to continue. There seems to be a wealth of it at the moment with everything you sort of mentioned, and I can only just see that getting more and more, which is really, really cool. But you know what? I would love to see, I don't know if they could do a film of it, or even maybe a TV. I know we say a lot about the TV series of the direct Flemings like Moonraker and what have you, but I would love to see films or really, really good TV movies of the young Bond series, of Higson's, of Steve Cole's, and like I think that could be done so well, and it's a real shame because I don't think it'll ever happen. But would you like to see that? What
I don't think it'll ever happen, based on one thing and one thing alone. I don't think you could find a young person, a young actor, that could pull off a young Bond. Do you know what I mean? It's like how you've got to
say that, but the start of the Last Crusade, Indiana Jones, River Phoenix pulls off young Indy, and he was super cool, and he did it. There are people out there that could do it. It's just finding them, you know.
Yeah.
But there would be some person out there that could do it, definitely. But how would you like to see it though? If they tried to go down that route,
yes, I would.
And would you like to see it as a proper movie, given good production value, or a TV movie and see how it goes, or what do you think?
I would say what would I want from that? I would say, oh, I don't know. There's so many different ways you could play it. Like you could just say, okay, we're gonna just do the Harry Potter thing and just make a series of younger Bond films. But what I'd want to see them do is not make it like those what were they called? Like Spy Kids movies. There was like, do you know what I mean?
I know that.
Like, I think the temptation to do that would be quite high. And like, for example, Steve Cole told us, didn't he? They said, do you want to do like a younger Daniel Craig and like skip the original timeline? He was like, no way. I want to stick with what, you know, the original foundation, which was the best decision he could have made. So I'd worry about that they'd try and make it too much in that vein. I'd want them to make it like a real classic old school adventure, kind of like that. I haven't actually seen the Harry Potter films, but how I imagine from what I've seen of them that they are. Do you know what I mean? I'd want it to be almost like an old school, you know, when you were a kid and there was like Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe on the TV or whatever, like that kind of style. That's what I'd want it, like a real classic British made film, or, you know, like you say, a TV series and stuff like that. What about you?
I mean, if the money was there, and I definitely want it to be sort of a proper British of made thing. Obviously, well, American studio money obviously would come into it at some point, I imagine. But I'd love to see film, like the books are so well done, aren't they? And you've got ready-made 7-8 films with Strike Lightning now, like, and that would make money. Find the right kid. The stories are great. Visually, they'd be brilliant. Good characters, good villains. You know, you see Bond, like we said, get his Bentley. You see Bond get a gun for the first time. You see him get all these little things, and I think it, you know, it won't happen, but it's a shame because I think it would be a real success.
What do you think about this? How about young Bond? If perhaps that wasn't going to happen with a movie or a TV series or whatever, what about an animated Bond series or film? Like maybe you could do like
James Bond Jr.
Maybe that was fun. That was fantastic. Let's have some more of that. You could have in the sense that you could have it like an old school sort of cartoon drawn animation, like the Batman animated series. Man, that was the nuts. I loved that show when I was a kid. Something like that. So it's like more of a you know, there's that sort of adult angle to it.
It's almost like some of the concept art that you get with the book or the cover art. And when you see you know, sometimes you'll get the concept art of the characters of the villains and they're drawn great. And you're like, oh, this is good. And if they were animated, I mean, I think that could almost like, you know, like Tintin, the most recent Tintin, the Spielberg one, you know, and something like along those lines, you know. Yeah,
like you could do it old school drawing animation. You could do it like, you know, your computer animations, like your what are those little yellow dudes, minions, something like that. Do you know what I mean? That obviously Bond wouldn't look like a minion, but you know, that computer graphic styling. I feel like there's an untapped resource in there somewhere.
Yeah. So who would we go to sort of nudge them and say, look, I think we think you should be doing this?
I suppose we need to give Barbara a call, don't we?
Well. Yeah, but then it's through the literary side of things, isn't it? So that's where things get tricky a bit.
That's true. I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Barbara is a bit open to other projects at the moment, isn't she? She's doing some other things that are non-Bond related. So, you know, maybe I don't know. Maybe I feel like it's one of those things whereby, for years, Star Wars was just a group of films that were made, and there was nothing. And then all of a sudden, overnight, this whole thing developed, and it's like there's Star Wars films coming out left, right, and centre. I feel like maybe something like that could just be happening in the future, where it's like, hey, we're just going to do a young Bond series now. The book sold a load. We're gonna make a little series. It'll be good.
Yeah, let's hope so. Fingers crossed, eh? So actually, just going back to the last point, Dynamite comics and all that sort of thing. I remember in one of our podcasts a while ago, we were talking about Varga, and we were kind of saying how they like their one-word sort of things. And Varga, what's a Varga? Eidolon, what's that about? So I did a little bit of research. So a Varga, would you like to know, Tom?
I would. I'm interested.
It's an Old Norse word meaning variously wolf, evildoer, or destroyer.
Interesting.
So that's quite interesting.
Right, yeah.
And in ancient Greek literature, an eidolon is a spirit image or of a living or dead person, a shade or phantom lookalike of the human form.
Interesting. All right. Okay, cool. So that's nice that they're using new words rather than just being like, tomorrow dies again today. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it is...
Tomorrow dies again today. That is a great title.
It's good. But I tell you what, when they announced the title of Varga, I was like, well, that doesn't sound very Bondian. What's that all about? And then B, I'm like, well, I don't even know what that word means. So what's going on? So I feel like they could have gone down that obvious route of just using a very derivative, styly Bond title. But I like the fact that they're doing some different stuff.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, these words do have meaning, and you look at that: wolf, evildoer, or destroyer, and you're like, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And hammerhead. Aside from the shark, I'm not quite sure what that could be, but we'd find out.
That's actually, cool. Do you know what though? That's actually a good Bondian title, Hammerhead, because you think of sharks, probably your first thought would be Jaws, as in the shark Jaws, but then after that, it's like the classic Bond villain thing of having a swimming pool full of sharks. So I kind of, and it makes me think of Warhead, which, the aborted Kevin McClory thing. So I feel like Hammerhead is a word that exists within that world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, definitely.
So in other news, good old Cue the Music, the world's greatest James Bond tribute band, who we've seen live. Very good, lovely stuff. They're obviously, as we've mentioned before, going to be playing a show at the Harlington in Fleet in the UK on November 27th. All very exciting. You're going to be there, aren't you, Chris?
I am indeed.
Very exciting stuff. Looking forward to it. Now, they're taking this performance to the next level. So if you have seen Cue the Music before, or if you haven't seen them before, this is going to be a great time to actually go and see them, because they are actually performing with a live string section this time, which is very nice. So what you're going to get is like proper authentic and stuff like that, and it's going to sound bloody beautiful. It's a shame I'm not going to be in the country, otherwise I'd have some tickets and I'd be going along to that. So that's going to be great on its own, but they're taking it to the next level, because what they're going to be doing is like a live webcast of the show as well, aren't they, Chris?
They are indeed. Now, there's also going to be a guy called Mark Forster is involved. Now, it's not the guy that directed...
I was going to squeeze in a joke there, and you already did it. Go on. Yeah, go on. Carry on.
But this guy has got Bond connections. He's basically recorded the soundtracks for the last 3 Bonds, and he's going to be recording the sort of show and sort of helping them set up and everything. So this live stream is really cool. So people, it's not everyone can make it to the event, but yet they can get to see it, get the full experience of what's happening. And you know what? There's a little bit of extra in there as well. So Warren has asked if I could be involved. So I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing a bit of presenting. I'm going to be going and doing interviews. I'm going to be saying hello to people. I'm going to be going backstage before the event so you can see what the band are doing and everything like that. I'm going to get people's opinions before. Half time there's always the interlude. I'll see what people think, and then at the end, go round and say,
So what you're telling me is this, Chris. This is what you're telling me. You're telling me, if I can't make the show, I can tune into the live stream in full HD. Is that what you're telling me?
In full HD, beautiful. Definitely.
You're telling me that it's multiple broadcast cameras with manned cameras, so they're going to be moving around, getting all sorts of amazing angles. Is that also what you're telling me?
As opposed to just one shot? Yeah, definitely.
Very nice. And you're telling me I can get that real live epic concert feel in my own home watching over the internet?
Amazingly, yes, you can.
And to go along with that, I get the pleasure of watching you interview people who are in the audience, interviewing members of the band and all that kind of stuff.
It sounds unreal, doesn't it?
It does.
It really sounds like a dream, but this is possible.
Brilliant. I'm excited about this because I can't make it. So that is precisely what I'm going to do. I'm going to be one of those people tuning into the live stream. I'm excited.
Now, there's a few details that are going along with this thing, which I'll talk about now. Basically, through Warren himself, he's said that we very much want to give the feel and the full experience of the live show, which is why we're offering it in this method, and it's only for a select time period. So basically, the stream will be available for just after 24 hours from 7 o'clock on the 28th of November through to midnight on the 29th of November. And you can start watching the stream anytime during that point in the period. The slight delay is just to, make sure everything's all
the thing is, when you broadcast live, bad things always happen. So in a sense, it's like recording the show, but then the word live stream, I suppose, is the wrong term to use, but it's like you can watch it over the internet as it happened for a limited time,
exactly.
I guess. Yes.
Exactly, yeah. And you'll still get the same full experience and the buzz of seeing it as if you were there, which is awesome. In addition to that, there's lots of like little perks available. So the best thing to go, if you go to Indiegogo or just go to Google and type Cue the Music Indiegogo, this brings up a whole load of perks that you can get involved in. Now, these include packages like there'll be DVDs of it, CDs and soundtracks of it, and all this sort of malarkey. There's a load of cool stuff that you can get involved in. Very nice. What we'll do, we'll stick on the link on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Everyone go and have a look, check it out, and get involved because it's going to be a heck of a night. It's going to be such a cool night.
Good stuff. So that's indiegogo.com, and then just once you get there, type in Cue the Music into the search box and you'll find it. We'll provide the link on the website and on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Indiegogo is spelled INDIEGOGO.com.
That's it.
And then all sorts of perks and stuff you can get involved with the show and obviously watch it over the internet as well, which will be bloody lovely.
Now, their set list, Tom, sounds banging. Now, I know you and I have obviously listened to them. We listened to them last year. Now, this is what will be served up for the willing audience. Okay, so we've got the James Bond theme. We've got From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Ooh. Oh, that was amazing when we heard that.
It was.
We have all the time in the world. Diamonds, Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun, For Your Eyes Only, A View to a Kill, Nobody Does It Better, Bond 77.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
70s fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Then we've got The Living Daylights, Where Is Everybody Gone, which I'm really happy about because that's a cracker. That's kind of like Nick Cross's sort of music, isn't it? That's so good. Got License to Kill, GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, Moby remix of the Bond theme, which is really cool.
Nice.
World Is Not Enough, Backseat Driver.
Very nice. I was worried you were going to say something else then, but yeah, Backseat Driver, wicked. Keep going.
Backseat Driver, so that's really cool. You Know My Name, obviously amazing. Another Way to Die, which they absolutely killed when we saw it.
That is a meaty track, the way they
that's really good.
Out. Yeah.
Skyfall, Writings on the Wall, which again, bringing tears to my eyes. That was amazing. Then the James Bond theme and an encore with Surrender. Now, I mean, if that doesn't get your tingles going, I don't know what will.
Gets my tingles going. I tell you what I like about that is the kind of any lesser band would ignore those things like Bond 77 or Where Has Everybody Gone or Surrender, and it's good. It's great that they stick those in there because they are brilliant, and it's kind of like it's like exploring the sort of stuff that wouldn't usually get attention but is equally as banging as some of those, the songs that everybody knows. It's good.
Definitely. I think until you've heard Bond 77, a live performance of it, you kind of haven't lived.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah.
It is that good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's cracking. So, yeah, like we said, we'll put all the details up on the website, on the Facebook page, but definitely get involved. It's going to be a hell of a night and an epic performance.
Lovely
as well.
stuff. So, in other musical news, if you're a fan of the Bond music, which I'm sure you are, next year the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra are going to be playing the music of Bond at the Royal Albert Hall. That's on Tuesday, the 11th of April, 2017, and it's going to be presented by A View to a Kill's Fiona Fullerton. So that should be a good night, eh?
Nice one. Yeah, a bit of Polo Even Over.
Polo Even Over.
We'll
I wonder if they'll rock out some Tchaikovsky to give her a little tickle.
That would be so good, wouldn't it?
Good stuff.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So with that event, if anyone's thinking of going, what we might do is set up an event page and then let us all know, and then maybe we can get a group of people going. I don't know 100% if I can make it, but even if not, get a good group of people there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. And our final little bit of news before we crack on with some Octopussy, good old Gloria Hendry, who you might know as Rosie Carver from Live and Let Die. She's going to be doing a little musical show over in Los Angeles, performing a jazz tribute to the songs of James Bond. Wow. Basically, she's doing that every Sunday for pretty much the rest of the year at the Barbara Morrison Performing Arts Centre. So you can go and watch Rosie Carver singing some brilliant Bond tunes in the jazz style on pretty much every Sunday, which is pretty cool, isn't it?
That's impressive. Every Sunday for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good stuff.
That's really cool. Are you gonna? Because you're going back to LA for a bit, aren't you? Are you gonna
Sadly,
have time to check her out?
I'm literally there for 3 days, and no,
all?
I'm not going to be there for the Sunday. Otherwise, I'd have been all over that.
Shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, shame, but still, that'll be again. Anyone going? Let us know and let us know how it goes.
So lots of musical Bond-tasticness lately. So make sure you go and get your tickets to Cue the Music at the Harlington and Fleet, November 27th. And if you're in a different country, get yourself some plane tickets. If you can't do that, then get involved in the Indiegogo campaign and watch it online, like I'm going to do. So lovely stuff. So before we crack on, then. Make sure you come and join us on the Facebook page. Just put James Bond Radio into the search box and you'll find us. You can follow us on Twitter, which is at James Bond Radio. You can come to jamesbondradio.com and enjoy all the blog posts that good old blogmaster Jack Lugo has been putting into place for us. We had some wonderful stuff last week from Matthew Chernov, who wrote a couple of pieces about the world of the Bond lookalikes, which is really fun. What a funny world. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of those guys, a lot of those guys sort of like they bear a passing resemblance to whoever it is, yet they have a full-on career impersonating that person. And there was
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like a Daniel Craig on there, a couple of Sean Connerys and a Pierce, and he's interviewed those people and done a blog post, which is quite cool.
So if you had a lookalike, if you were a lookalike of like a Bond sort of person now, who do you think you would be? And would you rock it out as much as you could?
I bear a striking resemblance to Goldfinger era Connery. I mean, it's just pretty obvious, isn't it? You just got to look at me and that's what you think. So yeah, that's what I'd rock all the time. What about you?
I don't know. Probably Knick Knack, I'd say.
Knick Knack, Paddywhack. Good stuff. Absolutely. So yes, jamesbondradio.com. Come and enjoy all those blog posts. There's plenty to do there, and enjoy the discussion in the comments section. You can leave us a voicemail over on the website as well. There's a button on the right-hand side that says leave us a voicemail. You can leave us a guess the quote, a trivia question, or something along those lines. Even if you just want to say hi and leave us a message, you can do that on jamesbondradio.com. If you wouldn't mind coming to iTunes, again, just go to the iTunes store and type in James Bond Radio. You'll find us. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a lovely, glowing 5-star review, that would be lovely, because that really helps us rank higher and attract more listeners. And then last but not least, if you'd like to donate to the JBR cause, you can come to jamesbondradio.com and there's a little donate link in the navigation bar. And that would be lovely if you would. And again, we don't want to pressure anybody, only if you fancy throwing a few bucks our way, so we can buy Chris some what have we done? We've got some shoes, we had some underpants out the way, a hat. Would you like a new hat? Yeah
a hat is a good one, actually, because I think my one the last time has got a bullet hole in the top, and so that needs some stitching just to repair it. So I think that would be that's exactly what I'd do. In fact, I have it here.
There it is.
There's a hole in it, and
your Moonraker style cowboy hat sombrero type ensemble. Very nice. Good stuff. Coolio. So then, before we get cracking, it's time for a little bit of Bond trivia, and then it's time for some Octopussy. So I'm going to go first, Chris.
You went first last week.
Did I? All right. Well, I'll let you go first then. I apologise. I'm getting too excited.
Good. All right, I'll go first. Okay, so last week you gave me a killer question about how many times do we see Bond
on horseback,
which was a wicked question. So mine is kind of similar to that. My question is, Mr. Thomas, in what films do we see James Bond behind the controls of an aeroplane in flight?
That's a potentially trick question.
Oh.
All right. Okay. That's a good one. I'm going to have to rack my brains on that one. But there's obviously plenty of planes, but is he at the controls of a lot of those? And there's some, yeah, all right. Okay. That's a good question. That's a brainstormer. Okay. Good stuff. Cool. My question of the day, Mr. Christopher Wright, is in which Bond film do we hear Bond humming?
Like that. Okay,
like
good
that,
question. Yeah. Let's have a look.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Good stuff.
Right, sounds good.
Should we crack on with some Octopussy then?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Who are you? My name's Bond. James Bond. Bond. James. Bond, what do you think you're doing? Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
So then, Chris, before we get started, this is obviously Octopussy Part 2. Remind me and the listeners where we left off last time.
Okay, so the last time at the end of Part 1 was just after the manhunt, where Bond had obviously been chased by Khan, Commodore, and everyone while he saw all the nice animals that we mentioned.
Comments.
I love his voice. His voice is so good.
It is good, isn't it? Yeah.
And then Bond basically manages to escape, and he gets onto the boat with Mickey G and the others and waves goodbye.
Good stuff.
That's where we last left him.
Lovely.
Okay, so following on from that then, so the next time we open up on a notepad with an octopus, and basically we hear it's a blue-ringed octopus, and it's connected to a band of female smugglers, which is obviously Octopussy and all that, and it was quite interesting that we see Bond, he's just getting a massage off VJ. What do you think of that? I was like, fair enough.
I like it. It's a bit unexpected, but welcome, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And basically, that Sadruddin tells him that it belongs to Octopussy, a fabulously wealthy woman, and no one knows her real name apparently. And then he basically tells Bond that she lives on an island populated just by women. Tom, now would you like to live on an island populated just by women except you?
I would. Live is a tricky one. I would like to visit it from time to time, then leave, because I think if you lived on there, the amount of drama would just drive you mad, wouldn't it?
Plus, you'd be exhausted.
You would be exhausted. I would say, like people go to Vegas for a long weekend to blow out the steam. That's what I'd go to Octopussy's Island to do that. Then I'd come back to normal life. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
But it was quite cool. The whole sexual discrimination. I'll have to pay it a visit. Which is quite cool. Now, what do you think of this? So Bond rocks up in his crocodile sub to the island. Now, are you a fan of the crocodile sub or not?
I think it's one of those things, like you wouldn't see Daniel in a crocodile sub, would you?
Would you not?
I don't think you would.
No.
Yeah, it's very much of the tone of this film, so I welcome it. I enjoy. There's something pleasing about the way the upper jaw of the crocodile just sort of lifts, and you just literally see Roger's face inside it. That pleases me. There's a lot about Roger's face that pleases me in this film.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd like to see how that's powered exactly. Like, how do they get the propulsion from the crocodile? Does it like flap its feet? And that's like, do you know what I mean? Or is there like a little propeller on the back? I don't know. But bring it on. Yeah. I'll have some crocodile.
Yeah, ideally, it would be like a tail that moves like that to create the motion, but I don't think we see that happen.
Yeah, we don't.
But yeah, so he rocks up in his crocodile sub, and basically he does a little bit of perving over the girls. Sees all these girls. Again, we get a lovely sort of look as he's doing it. He sees Octopussy in a sort of dressing gown with the octopus, and then goes to sort of follow into a room, and she's got security cameras and sees he's there. Now this is where we do the classic bit. Bond enters and Octopussy turns around, and this is the first time we see her. So we've seen her sort of body before, but this is the first time we see her face. And that is a cool thing, isn't it? We always say we like it when they do that in films, and I think it works well here.
When they introduce a new Bond actor, and it's, like Majesty's is a perfect example of that. GoldenEye is another perfect example of that. It builds up, doesn't it, to like a thing. Now I wonder if you built it up to that point, in 1983, you're in the cinema watching it for the first time. Is your initial thought, well, Miss Anders obviously survived the gunshot from Scaramanga?
That is a good point. Maybe. Yeah, maybe she went to set up the whole Octopussy cult after surviving that gunshot. She was just faking it.
She was faking it, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, maybe. I like Octopussy, so she's like, am I to be your target for tonight? There's real nice chemistry between these two. I really like the Roger and Maud Adams, like, they just gel so well together, I think.
They do. I tell you what else I've noticed as well is Maud Adams wasn't a Bond girl that I fancied when I was a kid because she seemed too mature. Like, and I don't mean that in terms of age, just in terms of her demeanour, right? Yeah. But looking at her in Octopussy, man, what a stunning looking woman that is. Good God, that bone structure is just out of this world. And I don't know, there's something about that flowing silken dressing gown that just sort of, it awakens the beast in me a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's nice.
She is stunning. Yeah. And she doesn't seem to have aged since Man with the Gun. And even, in fact, now, when we saw her last year, she hadn't really aged much either. So it's a special sort of secret. But now, this is where we're getting a bit of the backstory about Major Dexter Smythe and Dad. And now the story here was slightly different to the book, which we mentioned last time, where this time there was a cache of Chinese gold in North Korea. Similar idea, her dad and his guide basically disappeared with the gold. The guy turned up dead from Smythe's revolver. And then they had to track him down, and Bond gave him, the option, and he committed suicide. And then she and Bond was wondering if she wanted to avenge him, and she basically said, wanted to thank him for giving him the honourable alternative. So that's quite a nice link there, I think. I wanted to know who the guy is playing in the photo, like as Major Dexter Smythe. I don't know if he was an actor or if it's just like some random dude in the crew or who it was. I think it would have been cool if it was Cubby Broccoli. Yeah. Like that would have been quite cool, wasn't it? But anyway,
I wonder if because it was kind of like with the names on the wall, Inspector at the end on the MI6 wall, were like members of the crew sprinkled in and stuff like that. I wonder whether that, that's interesting. I wonder whether that dude was anybody in particular.
So what do you think of the Octopussy girls' outfits, and are you going to get one for the missus?
You mean the red catsuit?
That's it.
I'm very partial to a catsuit, Chris. Yes, bring that on all day long. Yes. Yeah.
It's tight in all the right places.
Indeed. Not too many buttons. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. So this is really cool. So Khan comes in to basically tell Octopussy Bond's escaped, and then she's like, would you like to see my new house guest?
Yeah.
And do you know what I love? What I've noticed about watching this film and not having seen it again is how good Louis Jourdan is. I think he's really underrated as a Bond villain. Maybe because he's not maniacal, megalomaniac or whatever. But the looks this guy can give, the looks of detest, the looks of like seething fury, just
bubbling
knowing
below the surface. Yeah,
it's so good, and he's a cracking villain. I love it.
Yeah.
And the fact like he wants to take care of Bond, and basically Octopus says no. We get another great line though from Khan, don't we? The whole you have. Oh, go on, you can.
No, you go for it. Go on.
You have a nasty habit of surviving.
Yes, that's a classic Bond villain line, isn't it? That one.
Yeah.
You see that in a lot of montages, don't you? It's kind of like, definitely. I suppose, it's his, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die, or why don't you just be a good boy and die? It's one of those moments you lock into, and that's a trailer moment, isn't it, right there?
Yeah, without a doubt. We see it all the time, don't we, with that one? And I just love the way he speaks. I know we say it all the time, but the whole, I'd like to take care of Mr. Bond personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's just great. Now, from that, then we go. So he basically leaves. He's a bit pissed off, and he leaves
naturally.
Naturally. And then now this is quite interesting. So Octopussy and Bond, she basically says that smuggling is no concern of the Secret Service. But then you're thinking of Goldfinger smuggling, diamonds or forever smuggling, and all that. But I think what she's alluding to is the smuggling that she's doing isn't affecting the British mainland or whatever. But then you've got the whole Sotheby's thing, so it's definitely, there is something going on there, isn't there? So that was quite strange, but there we go. Now, this next scene, it's only a short scene, but I really like it. It's when Khan goes to hire the thugs. Okay, so he goes into this sort of dark, dingy place, and there are some real evil-looking dudes with scars and, like, you know, just messed up-looking guys. And he's basically saying that, you know, he has a picture of Bond, puts it down, and he wants him dead, but not to touch Octopussy. She has to be sort of, you know, don't harm the woman. And the guy's kind of going, they don't want to make enemies with her, so he puts down another bag. So there's 2 bags of like coins in there, and he starts laughing. And then we see the yo-yo buzzsaw for the first time. Now this, I remember in the first part 1, I was talking about these exotic weapons like they had in the bazaar chase. But this is such a cool weapon, and it was scary as hell. I remember when I was young watching that, going, bloody hell, you know, that was just scary stuff. And I love the way he just flicks it down and the blade slices through the picture of Bond and then back up. What do you think of that?
Those weapons are wicked, man. Like, there's a real, like, that to me, it's almost a shame that, like, they were used just by those random thugs. I feel like if Gobinder had that weapon, like, that would have been his Jaws teeth. Do you know what I mean? Or his steel brimmed hat. You know what I mean? I feel like that should have been perhaps Gobinder's signature thing. But they are deadly, and they are so memorable. And it's kind of like when you actually sort of get to see those in action later, when obviously they attack Bond and Octopussy when they're in bed. Like, that's a real, like, moment, because you know what I mean? You just get touched with one of those things and you're buggered, aren't you? So, that's a really visually striking weapon, those.
That's an interesting point, though, you mentioned about Gobinder, because, he you know, he crushes the dice, he's got the scimitar later on, but he hasn't got his own signature weapon. Yeah. Like, and I think if he had that, I mean, obviously he couldn't have carried it around with him in every scene. Yeah. But, you know, that would have elevated his henchman character. But then again, like you said, it's nice they've just hired these thugs and they've all got these cool weapons as well. So that's kind of nice as well, I think.
Yeah, I could imagine some sort of scene where Kamal Khan gets Gobinder to dispatch some sort of low person in the organization, and then you see him use those on that, and that would set it up in the same way that, you know, with Hinks with the thumbtacks, whatever you call them, thumb screws or something. I don't know what you call them, but whichever way you use them, they're cool weapons nonetheless.
That's it. It's really cool. And then we cut back to Q, and what I love, he's watching the island, but he's fishing, and that kind of links in. Do you remember in The World Is Not Enough with his Q boat, and he was saving that for his retirement so he could go fishing? And that's a nice little link. And obviously this was first, but I kind of like that. So he's looking at the island, and then Octopussy sort of tells Bond about how she revived the octopus cult, and again the chemistry is really good. And then VJ rocks up to sort of take over from Q, and Q basically said, what does he say? Oh, you must be joking. 007 on an island populated exclusively by women? We won't see him till dawn.
That's a great one.
And that's good, isn't it? And that's good. And again, okay, so VJ, I know last time we said what a likeable character he is and everything. And I mean, completely he is. And his chemistry with Bond that we've seen before is great. But also, his chemistry with Q is equally as good as I think. Like, he just gets on with everyone.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with VJ. You stick him with anybody and he's gonna get on with them. So yeah, oh man, I love seeing Q out in the field. I feel like his shining moment was License to Kill, obviously, because he was in that loads. But I love seeing him out in the field doing stuff. And obviously the fishing is a cover, but I like to think that Q, that was his hobby when he wasn't inventing gadgets. He would like to go fishing and all the rest of it. So it's nice. And like just seeing those two dudes sitting on the side there talking about Bond and we're not going to see him Dawn is a great moment. I want more Desmond on screen at all times. Yeah. And I'd like to see more of VJ. Obviously that's not going to happen, but I would like to see more VJ for sure.
No, but a cool little scene there. Yeah. And so back on the island, then Bond does a little bit of sneaking, not a huge amount, but a little bit, and he finds this poster for Octopussy Circus in Karl-Marxstadt and quickly hides it. Octopussy comes back in and says she has to leave and tells Bond to stay. You know, what's he going to do on an island full of women for 2 weeks? Who knows? But she has to sort of get away, and then she tells Bond that they're two of a kind.
But we're two of a kind. We move as one.
Nah. Yeah. Now, why do you think she thinks they are two of a kind?
Well, it's an interesting one, right? Because when you look at what Bond is, spy working for Her Majesty's government, but then you look at his background and it's, a very disconnected childhood with the dead parents and being brought up by Aunt Charmian and all that kind of stuff. And then you have somebody like, I feel like without the right guidance, Bond could have almost, if he'd have fallen in with the wrong crowd or had the wrong guidance, he could have gone to a life of, less noble kind of, means.
He could have been a henchman or a hitman for a Spectre or something.
Yeah,
like that,
I feel like he could have gone that way if he didn't have that guidance. And I feel like Octopussy is an example of that. I feel like the father figure in her life perhaps wasn't around, and she was a bit of a Tracy, maybe a bit of a rebellious daughter, and the smuggling was what she fell into rather than going into the services or whatever like Bond did.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that is a nice little link there. But I tell you something, Octopussy's bed is a masterpiece. That was, I think Peter Lamont designed that, but it's a cracking. Imagine on a night out, you find a nice young lady and you go back to hers and she's got a bed that's like that. What would you do?
I mean, I imagine I would like to think my actions would be rather like Roger's in this and just, make it happen, a little bit forcefully, it must be said.
Yeah. It was a bit like Connery on Pussy Galore in Goldfinger, or it was basically like Connery in all of his films. He'd just like grab them and then start getting off of them, wouldn't he?
The rapey kiss. That's the old technique from those days, wasn't it? You don't really see that these days, But in the olden days, the rapey kiss was quite the popular technique by the looks of things. Yeah.
And I think that is officially what it's known as.
I guess. Rapey kiss. I guess so. Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And then we cut back again to VJ. So he's the one keeping a watch now. It's a bit later on at night.
He's relieved Q, hasn't he? Q's buggered off now.
He has.
Yeah.
So Q's buggered off, yeah. He's gone for a cup of tea and dinner or whatever. And he hears this creaking on the wooden sort of, there's sort of a stairway next to him, isn't there? And he thinks it's Q and goes to have a look. Now, this scene I remember sort of being quite scared about as well. So suddenly one of the thugs jumps out of the water and another one from behind and grabs him. And then then Gobinder walks down the stairs and looks up and you just see the other guy with the yo-yo buzzsaw. Yeah. And the fear on VJ's face, like his eyes are almost popping out of his face, aren't they? And then you just hear that noise, the buzzsaw noise.
Yeah.
I can't.
I don't think a human could make that noise, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And then the birds. It causes all these birds to sort of fly away, doesn't it? And it is a scary scene. That it is a scary scene.
It is. Yeah. I think. For like you were saying last time, how he said the score is actually quite a dark sounding score. Yeah. But in a film that's actually quite light-hearted and goes for a lot of laughs, this is a really dark scene, man. Like, I imagine, how Roger often says he didn't like the bit in Man of the Golden Gun where he goes to break Miss Anda's arm and stuff and didn't feel like that was his Bond and stuff, and he didn't like the kicking the car off in For Your Eyes Only and all of those kinds of things. I feel like almost this scene would be something that Roger would have been like, oh, I'm not sure about that. That might be a bit much. Do you know what I mean? For his Bond.
Yeah. I think you're right.
But yeah, I remember watching this as a kid and that scene making me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. Do you that's a perfect example? Then I feel like if Gobinder had been the one with the buzzsaw, like that's the scene that would almost set that up for his signature weapon.
Yeah, and I think it would have worked really well had he been the one to use it as well. I still think it's cool as it is, but if he was going to, like you said, definitely he'd have done that. Maybe he would have killed one of the other ones, or at least you would have seen him show it early on. Yeah, and then do that. So interesting. And it's strange because the birds kind of create noise, and then Bond wakes up, and he almost has a sixth sense, doesn't he? Like as if something bad is about to happen. So he walks to a window and has a little look to see if he can see anything. And now that's kind of an interesting insight into Bond's character. Was he just woken up and decided to have a look, or was it the fact that his highly tuned senses were telling him, hang on a minute, something's about to happen?
Do you know what I think this is? You could say that's Bond having a sixth sense, that he's just sensing something's up and he wakes up. But I feel it's almost like in the book Dr. No, right, with the centipede scene, obviously it was a spider in the film, when he wakes up in the middle of the night, he's lying there, and it says to him, he basically thinks to himself, why have I woken up? Like, what? Like, and he's sort of like scoping out the room without moving, thinking, there's somebody in here? Like, what is it that stirred me from my sleep? And then obviously he feels the tickle on his leg, and the whole centipede thing kicks off. I think what it is those bad dudes who are they've snuck in, they've got the buzzsaws ready to take him out. I think there's just been like a little creak on the floorboard or something, or just a wisp of clothing moving that's just like woken him up, and like that's what's got him up and out of bed. I think that's what that would be.
Yeah, but that's really cool. That's really cool. I like that, and I like how he was obviously in his crocodile sub, and they kind of used reeds, didn't they, to kind of hide under the reeds as they swam towards the island. I thought that was really cool. Now, so they're lying in bed, and then the drip falls from the buzzsaw onto his cheek.
Yeah.
And him and Octopussy jump out the way, and then suddenly the buzzsaw comes down and it slices through the pillow, feathers going everywhere. Really cool little action scene.
Yeah.
And you know what? For a Roger film, this is probably one of my favourite fight sequences. He really, like, I know he's it's one of his, in terms of him being quite old, but he really does, like, in terms of the hand-to-hand combat, I think he's awesome in this. Yeah. He really does. Like, so one of them comes over with an axe, and he basically chucks him into one of the other guys, and then some guy tries to strangle him, and he sort of flips over his back, uses the wall to flip over his back, and then Octopussy smashes him with something. And that's the other thing. It's really cool that Octopussy gets involved. So she's not just sitting back cowering, she smashes one guy over the head. I love it when she stamps on the other guy's back as they're running past him, and it's cool to see her get involved.
That is another sign, isn't it? Because we often talk about who would Bond perhaps end up with, and Tracy is the obvious answer, but like that was the thing a Bond girl needs for Bond to want to keep going back and not ploughing whoever he likes, is a sense of inner strength. And like Tracy, like we've often said, she's the one that kills Gunter and stuff, and she's giving it, smashes the bottle, and she's having a ruck. She's not just going, "Oh, James," and wait for him to come and get him. Yeah. She gets stuck in, and Octopussy does as well. And I feel like she's obviously the head of this big group, and in a combat situation, she gets stuck in as well. And I feel like Octopussy could be Roger's Tracy in a sense.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. I was just about to say, okay, so obviously Tracy is Bond's sort of woman, so to speak, in terms of, the closest to who he'd end up with. But if you looked at each actor and said that question in terms of the films they were in, without a doubt, I'd say Octopussy would be Rogers. Yeah. I really would. Yeah. And I think maybe Pussy Galore might be Connery's. I'm not sure.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it's a bit harder with Tim. He's only in 2. What about Pierce? Who would you say would be Pierce's? Jinx or?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I didn't think Pierce had...
Paris Carver, wasn't there? Paris Carver,
I guess, but then he did bugger off and leave her, didn't he?
Yeah, no, that's true.
I think I'm probably going to have to come back to you on that one, because I can't think... It wouldn't be Christmas Jones. I don't think he had any chemistry with Wai-Lin, really.
It'd be Electra King if Electra King wasn't dead.
It would be Electra King,
and if she wasn't a villainess.
That's true.
That was probably the closest he ever got, I think, in terms of mutual respect of someone and what have you. What about Danny Boy? Who do you think is so far?
It's got to be Vesper, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it has to be, doesn't it? Yeah. But it's cool. I like that sort of thinking.
Bit of speculation.
Sort of. Yeah, definitely. So then after that, they sort of go into this other room, and one of the buzzsaw sort of cuts through the door. One of the thugs comes in, and I love it. Bond sort of puts his arm behind his back and like slams his head into the tank. The octopus then gets like on his face like a face hugger from Alien,
scary.
Or something,
yes,
isn't it?
That's what it reminds me of. That's a scary moment, isn't it? Like having that monster on your face, man. That used to freak me out a bit as a kid as well.
Yeah, definitely. But it's a really cool visual bit. And then basically one of the other thugs gets shot by Octopussy. Again, she gets involved. And then Bond and the sort of buzzsaw guy start grappling and then like fall out of the window.
Now this is important, Chris. This is an important moment, because this is the first occurrence of what I call the signature Roger Moore grunt. Okay. Ooh. Now, in these last 2 films, I think it only happens in this point. Roger has a grunt that he uses, and he uses it all the time in A View to a Kill, which I'm sure you'll recognise. I'm about to perform it for you. Okay, it's this. Yeah. Oh! Do you know what I'm saying?
That was really well done.
Thank
that was
you.
really well done.
It's not a ooh. It's not like an. It's like
No.
an ooh. And the first time we hear it is out that window into the water during that fight sequence. Another perfect example of View to a Kill when he's hanging off the bottom of the Zeppelin and like the
Future Kill's got loads.
the spire twangs him on the penis and he does it there.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first example. Yeah. What I want to do is edit all the occurrences together into one video and stick it on YouTube.
You know what?
Point.
I did that back at university. I honestly did. And I even put some of the lighter ones. So there's a little one in Live and Let Die when they're in the underground cavern and he gets hit, but it's nothing quite as big as that.
Yeah.
I don't think there was one in The Man with Golden Gun. There was one in Moonraker, I think, which I remembered. And For Your Eyes Only, I'm not sure if it had one, but I remember Octopussy having a couple, and I remember View to a Kill just having loads.
Yeah, every 5 minutes.
But I did actually edit them together, but it was on a VHS back in those days, so God knows.
We couldn't even play that now, even if we had that tape.
I know. Yeah. We'll have to do it though. We'll have to do it because it's pretty funny.
For sure.
So this is a kind of like an interest bit. So they fall in the water.
Yeah.
Suddenly this crocodile comes along. Octopussy and her sort of troop are kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? And we see Bond and the other guy, well, particularly the other guy, sort of screaming and getting pulled under by this croc. Now, here's some questions for you. A, is that a real crocodile? And does it kill the guy? B, is it Bond's crocodile sub and Bond's the one that's killing the guy? C, is there a real crocodile and the crocodile sub, and the real crocodile takes the guy and Bond gets in the sub? What's your opinion on that?
I don't know the answer to that. I would like to think, okay, this is the world of Roger's Bond, so I feel like, here comes a crocodile. Some genuine, fear going on there, some genuine jeopardy. Let's push this dude in front of the crocodile, so he's the first one to get eaten. And here's my crocodile sub, so the crocodile doesn't get me. I'm going to get in my sub, and now I'm on equal terms with the croc.
Yeah. That's basically that's pretty much what I think, because the way that crocodile moves and maneuvers and flips and thrashes its tail, and the way it brings that guy down, it has to be a real one. So my opinion has always been a real croc is taking care of this guy, and while that's happening, Bond is getting away. He knows where his sub is, gets into his sub, and then the next scene we see is it tootling along to go and see Q. I think that's the same. So then obviously, then we see the back of the crocodile open and Bond get out, and we see Q, and obviously VJ's dead, and you can see real sort of grieving on Bond's face. This was a guy he liked.
Yeah,
didn't know him for long, but he liked him, and he wasn't happy. And Q basically said that he was alive when I found him, and said it was Kamal's men. Now I remember someone saying, "Does that mean Q killed him?" And I'm like,
I suppose you could look at that in the sense of putting him out of his misery or something. Do you know what I mean? But Q's not capable of that, for crying out loud.
No, of course he's not. It was just a case that he hadn't quite died, and then he obviously died. After he said that to Q. That's how I've always thought about it. Here. So Bond, now having found that poster, he knows about Karl Marxstadt. So the next scene we see, they're over in Berlin, in Germany. Now, something that I like seeing is Bond being driven around in a car with M. I think that's really cool. So we get it here. We obviously get it in Tomorrow Never Dies with Moneypenny in the back. We see it in Skyfall when they're going up to Scotland. And I just think that's really nice of Bond and M in a car. I don't know. I kind of like it.
Do you know what? There's one scene that I would love to see in a Bond film that you could totally... They've kind of used this story a little bit, but it's still a scene that you could definitely work into a new film, which is the scene from the Moonraker novel where Bond goes in to see M, and M's just a bit uncomfortable, and he basically tells him the whole thing about Hugo Drax. He's cheating at cards, and I can't work out how. Can you come with me, kind of thing. And there's this whole awkward exchange where Bond's thinking like M's acting a bit weird. Why is he? And then it all becomes true that M's sort of like asking him to do a personal task rather than a real mission. And I would love to see that on screen. Like, you could, obviously everybody says like Die Another Day was like a sort of a weird warped version of Moonraker, and in a sense it was. But I feel like that scene could be really done well with Daniel Craig and with Ralph Fiennes. Do you know what I mean? I feel like, man, I'd love to see that scene.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and any kind of like interaction between M and Bond outside of the traditional office, I think is always nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. But that's like having M ask Bond to almost do a personal sort of helping him out is quite cool, I think. I guess you had in World Is Not Enough, you had the M Electric King, Robert King thing.
Yeah.
Which was
that was a personal connection.
Yeah, similar sort of thing, which is quite good. So Bond basically gets his his alias. Did you manage to catch that? What his alias is?
That was Charles Morton.
Yes, well done. And do you know what his job was?
He something to do with leads and furniture.
That's it. Well done. He's basically a manufacturer rep or something, going to look at furniture in East Berlin or something like that. But that's quite cool. I remember one of the listeners who's from Leeds saying that is his favourite moment in the whole series because Leeds is mentioned. So that's quite cool. And it also, we get to see Checkpoint Charlie. We can see the Berlin Wall in the background. So this is proper spy territory. This is like proper location. And that's the thing,
like
really
you
cool,
said, man, that dates this film right smack bang in the Cold War, where Germany is still divided. That whole thing, like the Berlin Wall didn't come down for years. So it's like, that's a proper real to life spy location. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
really cool. Really like that. And so after that, then we cut to the circus where Mishka and Grishka are doing their knife throwing. I love those guys. And they're damn good. So one of them's obviously spinning, the other one's chucking them all, and then one of them chucks a knife back and he catches it. You know, they know what they're doing, sort of thing. So inside the tent, then Bond sort of sees Octopussy with Orloff and Khan, and so knows something's going on. Magda appears in a nice little glittery outfit, which is always good. And then Bond hides behind this massive dude to get past her, which I thought was quite cool. Now, then we get to see the cannons brought in, and Francisco the Fearless is there. Now, he's pretty cool. Do you think Francisco the Fearless was a potential name before Francisco Pistol Scaramanga came about?
Well, at the end of the day, he had his time in the circus, didn't he, Scaramanga? That was like the key part of his growing up. So maybe that is a little nod. Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
And I always thought that was quite a cool stunt as well. It was Dickie Graydon stuntman, but I think they must have done it for. Well, did they do it for real? I don't know. Maybe.
He's got balls to steal that geezer, hasn't he? So
yeah. I'd imagine he was a guy that was hanging off the thing in Moonraker off the cable car.
Yeah.
And wasn't he the one that was sliding down the cable in Majesties as well?
Probably, yeah. Like, that dude was insane with the stunts he did. So, yeah absolutely.
Proper balls out. Okay, so then Bond basically sees like this, one of the circus helper jackets, gets on, goes outside where everyone's sort of going to board on the train. So he knows something's going down, basically. Go goes to the art repository with Comrade Borchoy, and basically they realise all these forgeries have been made, and the guy's like, the Romanov star, and then just drops it and stamps on it, and Lenkin's basically foiled then. And then basically Bond sneaks onto the train, and now this is where I think you need to be quite, you need to take concentration of what's going on, because quite a lot happens at this point.
There's a lot of plot points that get revealed and sort of tied together at this point, isn't it? And it would be easy, because what I feel tends to happen, and it must be said, I think when I watched it through, it's easy to be like, okay, well, here's an action sequence that's about to come up, this stuff's about to kick off, and you can sort of like just not take in what's happening. And a lot of the time, it's kind of like you get told things, it's a fake. Okay, it's a fake. But when things happen visually without you actually being told as well, it's very easy to miss those things, isn't it? But then again, you have that balance of not insulting your audience by being like, right, now we're doing this with the train, and then we're swapping the bomb, and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. It's tricky, isn't it?
It is. It's hard to know. But I think what I liked about this is how... So he gets on one train, and we basically we kind of find out really that Mishka and Grishka is more working for Orloff, because when they're inside the carriage, Khan tells Godmother to stay with the jewelry tool, which is quite interesting, I thought. But this is a bit where basically there are two identical trains, aren't there? So the two identical train carriages, both with like the cannon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So basically, they go into this tunnel. One of them has got the jewelry, which is the one that Octopussy, thinks is the one that's going to come through.
Yeah.
And Bond is on that one. And basically in the other one, there's an atomic bomb. Now, this sort of whoever it is comes in and tells him, about this atomic device and how to set the timer and everything like that. And so obviously the bomb carriage is then the one that gets pushed forward and coupled onto Octopussy's train, even though she thinks it's the other one.
Yeah.
And then the other one gets pushed forward, and that's for Orlov to take the jewels out. Now, this is quite a cool bit. So Bond is obviously sneaks back onto the jewel one, and we see Mishka looking at the Romanov star, and then they see in the reflection, he sees Bond behind him, and then gets a blowtorch. And this is quite a cool little bit. What did you think of this bit?
Yeah, man, cool. It's cool. Like, there's some stuff on this train, like, that is, and again, sort of, I suppose I'm talking a bit more about the next section, but like, there's some genuine, like, nasty shit and good stunt work that happens in this sequence. Like, the one that sticks out to my mind is when, after he's driven the car on the tracks and stuff, and like that car gets smashed into the lake, and he just gets on the train at the last second and all that kind of stuff.
Out stuff.
There's some real top dollar stuff in this, man. Yeah.
And I love as well how Mishka and Grishka have their own music cues. I know we mentioned about Hinks with the little one Inspector, and obviously Wint and Kid are probably the best henchman music cues ever.
For sure.
Like, that's amazing. But whenever you see Mishka and Grishka doing something deadly, like later on when Bond's trying to kill, when we first see him kill 009, and this bit here where he's having the fight, we hear the same music, and it's really cool. So basically Bond gets blinded by the blowtorch and like just avoids a knife, and then he kicks the sort of lever, the cannon knocks down on Mishka's head and basically kills him. Then he puts him inside, doesn't he? So that's really cool. Now, Bond basically sees Orlov coming towards the carriage and passes the canister to his soldiers who takes it away. And then Orlov gets in, and Bond basically realizes it's Bond, who says, what the hell are you doing? There's an atomic bomb. You're going to kill everyone. And Orlov obviously sort of says that he wants, Bond said, what happens when you retaliate? And I love the bit where Orlov goes, against whom?
Well, this is it. Do you know what? It was this moment that made me think, like I said last time, maybe Steven Berkoff could have been a brilliant Blofeld, because this little plan is the classic Spectre plan, isn't it? Of playing two people off against each other, or basically doing something with a bit of smoke and mirrors involved. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Spectre plan is, let's play the Russians off against the Americans, for example, by staging some sort of event. And this is the same sort of thing, isn't it? But in a slightly different way. Set the bomb off. Everybody assumes it's an accident, so they disarm, and then leaves the borders empty for them to just sweep across Europe. Yeah. Like, that's a cool little plan, I think.
Yeah, I think it's very, it's super clever, and I think it's very Bond. It's got a good Bond feel to it. And I think that's really good. So basically, one of the guards opens the door, and Bond shoots him in the head, and then Orlov escapes out the back. And as he's running away, he's like, kill him! Kill him! And stuff like that. He's going a bit mad, isn't he? But I love how crap they are. Like, you get all these machine gun touting guards. There must have been like at least a dozen of them or something. And Bond rocks up with his Walther and just takes them all out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I like the stunt. I like the stunt guy falling down the stairs as well. That's good. That would be cool. And then Bond gets up to Orlov's car and basically, nabs it, doesn't he? So he tries to get away, which is pretty cool as well. So what do you think about this part then? So Bond's in Orlov's car. That's quite cool. He does the old Diamonds Are Forever trick, going up on two wheels. Which is really cool. Nice little nod. You can see the machine gun fire off the bottom. And then he drives over the tyre shredders. And I think this is a moment of sheer brilliance. So all the four tyres are off. He's only on his rims, and he sees his railway track. He knows a train's going, and he spins the car onto the rails. And now, visually, that is such a cool Bond thing to do, I think.
I've never gone across a level crossing in my life without thinking about that scene. Like, it's just, you just want to do it, don't you? You just want to get your tyres off and get on those tracks and bomb down after the train. Yeah, man. I don't know if I wonder if that's even physically possible. I guess, like, in terms of like, okay, say the gauge of the rail is the right width for your car, and so that's fine. Like the wheels do line up, but whether you would actually get any traction on the rails,
I was going to say whether it
not.
slipped or not. Yeah, I'm assuming. Well, let's give it a go. Let's try it out.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's give it a go, and we'll record it for next time show.
Let's do it.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's really cool, isn't it? So Bond's rocking along on the thing. One of the railway station sort of guards see him and changes the lever, so he goes on to the next track, passing all these people that are going, "What the hell is that?" You know, this car. I love it when in Bond films where you see your average civilian seeing Bond do something crazy and they're like, huh? You know, it's just something you don't see every day. And I think that's a really cool sort of moment of doing that. I remember you saying in the last podcast how many times we see Bond do something like real ballsy. And this is where he puts a brolly on the accelerator to keep the speed going, opens up the sunroof, gets out onto this car next to the train, and then we hear this other train coming, and basically he leaps over and catches onto the first train. The car, like you said, gets smashed over the bridge and onto the river, and that is ballsy, man. Isn't it?
Man.
Like, Bond is ballsy.
That sequence is great. Like that moment in particular, just jumping off the car, hanging on the edge of the thing, and it's cool. Like I like that this whole sequence because there's now some sneakiness involved again, isn't there? So he's on like the roof of the train, and then peeking through the windows and all that kind of stuff, and and then obviously you get the fight with Grishka. Because Mishka is the one that's already been killed. So Grishka comes out, and we have the fight on the top. It's nice. The one thing I would often quote as a child would be Mishka when he comes out because he Bond's obviously in Mishka's outfit. And then I enjoy that.
It's really cool, and I like follow that car. That's a good one.
Very nice
one. So basically, they get to the point where they're at the checkpoint, they're at the border, and the inspectors are checking out the carriage, and they look in the cannon, but obviously Mishka's not in that one, he's in the other one, and the car and the train gets the go-ahead to carry on, and at this point Orlov's car has been recovered with the jewellery, and Gogol he's heading for the border, heading for the train. So Gogol's in his helicopter, Orlov's in the other car, both trying to get to the train to the border as soon as they can. We see the train just get the go-ahead to leave, and they both land. And now this is a really cool moment, I think. Orlov, he's going, Orlov gets out of his car, runs towards the train. Stop that train! I must stop that train, sort of thing. And he gets past the guards who basically like shoot him, don't they? They fire at him, and Gogol's like, no. And then he's crawling along these train tracks, and he's trying to get after it. And Gogol comes along, and he's like, what does he say? Petty thief or something.
Common thief. That was one of your quotes recently in recent weeks.
That's it. Oh yeah, that's it. A disgrace to the uniform and all this. And then you look, Stephen Burkoff is brilliant in here, and he just sort of said, yes, but tomorrow I'll be a hero of the Soviet Union. And then down he goes. But I think that's a really cool moment. That
what's interesting about this, right, is the fact that we have like a game played on us in this film with who the villain actually is. Do you know what I mean? It's like at the beginning, it's all Kamar Khan, obviously the bad guy, and then all of a sudden, this Octopussy woman appears, and he's subservient to her. So it's like, oh, well, maybe she's the villain, and then it's sort of obviously Bond and her get on well, so it's okay, that's not the villain. So obviously we've been introduced to Orlov, so maybe Orlov is the brains behind the whole thing, and he's the main villain. But then he dies early, and it's like you're sort of left guessing a little bit, aren't you?
You are, and equally, you've got Gobinder as a henchman, you've got Mishka and Grishka as henchmen.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of cool character. I like it. It's like Live and Let Die. I love the fact there are so many villains in that film. It's what I love, and I think Octopussy has a bit of that going for it as well, which is really cool. Like all the thugs as well. Now this is the next scene is one that definitely sort of brings up a lot of contention. So basically, Bond is in the carriage. First of all, he opens a hatchway, and you think that would, the noise of that would alert sort of Grishka. But anyway,
Grishka's not very bright. Let's face it. He's been throwing knives his whole life. He doesn't know what's going on.
He was concentrating on it so hard, he wasn't thinking. So Bond drops in, and he gets one of the knives. And Gobinder comes in and says, "All right, they've got to stay where they are." And Bond hides in the gorilla suit. Now, this is definitely one that comes up quite a lot as well.
Yes.
It's a gorilla suit and the clown suit. I think this comes up just as much sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, what's your opinion of that then?
Well, it's another one of those that is crazy, isn't it? At the end of the day, you can see the pink surrounding of his eyes in the gorilla monkey eye holes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get away with that in a real life situation, would you?
No.
You just wouldn't.
There's a bit where Gobinder kind of locks the bomb up again, and he looks straight up at the camera, or just to the side of the camera, as if he's looking at the gorilla suit, so as if he knows definitely something's up. And then Bond sort of shuffles on his feet and knocks his tank. Now, does he do that on purpose or not? And if not,
that's
why,
a good point, because Gobinder does get suspicious and he does ram the sword through. And there's the bit where he rams the sword in, and then obviously we see Bond climbing up the ladder behind it. So I guess maybe he didn't get away with it. I guess in a sense that it's like,
because one way I was thinking of it was if Gobinder looked up and stared, and obviously Bond realised that okay, he knows I'm here, but I don't know. I thought maybe if he wanted to create even more of a distraction, he could like knock the thing and then like sneak out while
you do need to think that this is a Roger Moore Bond film. So again, I feel like you just can't take this sort of thing all that seriously. You just kind of have to laugh a bit. There is a concept that we'll talk about towards the end about the pressure of a new Bond film and how, for like us watching Octopussy, it was always a film that's always been around, or any of the Bond films. They were always around, and they were like old classics before we were even born.
Yeah.
But then for somebody who goes to see this film as the new film in 1983, there's a whole, and it's a similar thing with Spectre. There's all this pressure of this being the new film.
Even more so nowadays.
Yeah. That I think a lot of it is under more of a pressure than if it's just a film you watched as a kid. And do you know what I mean? All those things are already there. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I feel like for me, this stuff like the gorilla outfit and all that kind of stuff are things that I could just chuckle at because I remember seeing it as a kid.
Yeah.
Whereas if in Bond 25 I see Daniel climb into a gorilla monkey outfit and get into a clown suit, would I be like, oh, for fuck's sake? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like the pressure of that is a different thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. No. I think the same. It's something you just got to take, take quite lightly. But what I do love is the scene that follows this. So we see Bond get out the hatchway, almost gets like swept off by the bridge, quickly ducks under, and then he basically runs across the top, jumping over this massive pipe and stuff like that. And they hear that something's going on up on the roof, and then we get another sort of ballsy moment where he sort of climbs down, and he sees Gobinder telling Khan about it, and then he climbs along the side, doesn't he? And he sees Octopussy and he's trying to get her attention, and then Khan spots him and shoots the window, and he just gets out. And then basically he climbs back up and runs across the roof with Gobinder sort of almost doing exactly the same through the carriages, doesn't he? And Gobinder just catches his foot, and then he brings him down in between the carriages, and they start having this little sort of scuffle.
Little tussle, yeah.
And, that's it. And Bond basically gets knocked down, so he's like half under the carriage, and Gobinder's going wild with his scimitar trying to like slice him, and he slices like the steam pipe, and then obviously gets it in his face.
Yeah. And
then Bond kind of climbs under around, and then they both go up onto the roof again, and there's like this little fist fight, and then that's where you hear Mishka. Now, that's kind of interesting because he thinks this is his brother, which is cool. He's in the outfit, Yeah. But yet his brother's just knocking, just punching the shit out of Gobinder. So that's kind of interesting as well, I thought.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of cool. And then obviously as soon as he sees it's Bond, he realises what's happened. And I love that bit. So they basically, grabbing each other, both fall off the train. And then we hear the music cue again. And just like the pre-titles with 009, Griska's chasing him through these trees, and they find that little hut, don't they?
Yeah.
And like obviously I love that sound as well.
Yeah.
Gets a knife and traps him about 5 or 6 different times in his outfit, and gets the knife ready, and is like, and this for my brother. And then obviously he lunges at Bond, who opens the door, gets one with a knife, and then slams it into him, and then has a nice reply, doesn't he?
He does, which is?
And that's for 009.
Very nice, yes.
I like that. So that's pretty cool. But that whole scene, I think, is really good. Just in terms of, Bond holding on the outside, being brushed by like bushes, his feet skimming across the stones, having to hold on. That the stunt work on that is epic. Obviously, Martin Grace did a lot of that and stuff. And,
and that bit where obviously they jump off the train and he's running through the trees is a little bit of like foreshadowing from the beginning, isn't it? It's like there's 009 running through the trees, running from Mishka and Grishka, and in this case, it's a more of an angered Grishka. It's Grishka, isn't it? More of an angered Grishka because Mishka's been killed. But luckily Bond's more skilled than 009, so he comes out on top. Yeah,
that's it. In fact, just briefly going back to part one person did mention that in the pre-titles, 009, for a 00, he does look pretty scared of being chased by two knife men. What do you think about that?
He is in a bit of a panic, isn't he? Bless his heart. Yeah.
But then
you would imagine in order to get a 00, you would have to be like the SAS sort of Uber training, and you'd have to just have balls of steel. Yeah. But maybe it wasn't a fear for his personal safety. Maybe it was a fear of getting the egg to where it had to go. Maybe that was it.
That's what I was thinking. And also he does deal with one of them pretty well when he sort of kicks him and stuff. But anyway, that's I digress. Okay, so after that scene, then we go to where they've got the massive parade. So the cannons coming through, and none of them know obviously the bombs in there. And they had these little skeletons, which is quite cool. That reminded me a bit of Day of the Dead. I thought that's quite cool. Now Bond makes it through the forest to like this road, and he tries to thumb a lift. Now, I remember when I was younger thinking, what a bunch of wankers. Even when I was younger, like when that group of young kids or whatever rock up in the car and they're like, oh, come on, and then drive off laughing at him. I was like, you bastards. Like, I just thought, you're doing that to James Bond.
How dare they? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And then it's so funny because he ends up with the most stereotypical Bavarian couple.
Offers him a bit of sausage in the back seat. Yeah.
That's it. Lovely. They're drinking beer, got a big sausage, and they're in a VW Beetle, and all that sort of stuff, like classic sort of German stuff. So basically he ends up at this sort of German like square, doesn't he? And he wants to obviously use a phone, and this woman beats him to it. So he just thinks, well, I'll just nick a Alfa Romeo instead then, and then burns away. Mein Auto!
That was a quote and a half. You fucked that right up, didn't you?
Why did I do that now?
There it is. Yeah. I think it's funny that Bond, like she's being all hoity-toity with the phone box.
Yeah.
I feel like Bond has a misplaced sense of being polite in that case because there's an atomic bomb about to go off. Surely he should have just pulled her out of the phone box. But then again, he nicks her car and it's all right. So
I see what you mean. Like even if he just like pulled her out, like the amount of time it took to drive there, he could probably have rung ahead. But then I see what you're right. But she looked rather stubborn.
Absolutely, that's true.
And obviously he wanted to burn around in the Alpha. So
that's true. Good. Yeah,
and this is quite a cool little chase. It's not like it's never known as a classic, but. There's loads of police after them. They get some good like spin. There's loads of tyres screeching in this. I like that. Burning it up the autobahn and stuff. And there's that cool bit where actually when in the circus now. So what is it? So Khan leaves the circus, doesn't he? Because he tells the general that he has some business to attend to or something like this. And you can see Octopussy's looking a bit okay. What's going on here? Type thing. But then there's that really cool scene where. Khan and Gobinder are outside and they get into the car and the car doesn't start, and the look that again Louis Jourdan gives is kind of like, and then he starts it again and then they go away, and apparently that wasn't scripted. That actually
really? That's interesting.
Yeah, they were just meant to get in and drive away, and when it didn't start, both of the actors just improvised, and it's one of the best bits in the film. I think that's so cool. But eventually Bond passes them, doesn't he? So he burns past and like Gobinder's like, oh, that was Bond. And then Khan basically sort of says, oh, don't worry, let him carry on. We'll be rid of him too, which is pretty cool. Now, basically Bond gets to the Air Force base, doesn't he? And there's a guy, and he won't let him in.
Yeah.
Well, no one ever lets Bond in.
No, but that's just par for the course, isn't it? So yeah, this is the bit, isn't it? Right. So this is ultimately he's racing back to the circus to defuse the bomb.
Yeah.
Drives through the barrier to get onto the base. Everybody's looking for him, and this is the bit most people hate. Right. This is the bit where we see Bond in a clown suit. Right.
Yes.
Now, the argument is this. We should never see Bond in a clown suit. He looks fucking ridiculous. But let's face it, he's on the grounds of a circus. What else is he going to do? Everyone's looking for him. He needs a disguise. Just so happens there's the old clown caravan over there. I'm going to get into that. How long does it take to put the makeup on? All right, I give you that. You can have that. It's probably going to take longer than 30 seconds to put the full makeup on and the smile and all that shit. But what else is he going to do? What else does he get? That was a necessity for the moment at hand. And he does play it pretty straight when he gets into the circus tent itself. Everybody's like milling about and he's trying to get there and then people are laughing and then, he as a character is very serious, isn't he? He's like, there's a bomb in the cannon or whatever he says. And then it's like, and then there's all the silence.
But that's what I think is brilliant about it. Like the whole thing about the timing is the only thing, because when you see the bomb countdown, then you see Bond go into the thing, and then you see the next Bond countdown when he comes out. Physically, it's impossible to do it in that time. But that is no different to the bomb countdown in Fort Knox, where someone's up there and they've got like 10 seconds to get down and physically couldn't do it. Or in Majesty's, when the bomb goes up, it says 0, and then 5 seconds later, Bond comes out. So that's just a thing that happens with Bond. So if people are annoyed at the amount of time, that's an editing error, not a story error, because of the way that it's edited, but which happened in other Bond films. So you can't say it's just an Octopussy thing. So the timing, if it had been edited differently, I think that would have fine. I completely 100% agree with you about the disguise. For me, no qualms whatsoever about the clown suit. He's in a circus. Like you said, what else is he going to dress up? He needs to get into that circus tent. They're not going to let him through in a red shirt and the Mischka and Grishka outfit, are they? Yeah. He's not going to run in naked. So what else is he going to do? He's going to dress up as a clown. And what I think is brilliant is the juxtaposition between the fact that, you get this light-hearted bit where they introduce Francisco the Fearless, and then Bond comes out and the kids are all laughing. And then you get the bit where the guards realise he's dressed as a clown and they go in, but they get the wrong clown and everyone's laughing. So you got that nice light-hearted bit. Yeah. And then you've got the real serious bit of what's going on. And when he runs over to the general and like you said, there's a bomb in there. And like the general's like, course, where would a bomb be? And then Bond obviously reveals he's a British agent. No, I'm being deadly serious. Tells Octopussy that Khan and Orloff double-crossed them. And then the other guy's like, General, this man is either drunk or crazy. And like, obviously they try and stop him, and then Bond races for the bomb. And this, again, the music is great. It gets really tense. Everyone's in the way and he has to try and get through. And basically he picks up an axe and tries to get the lock, and someone grabs him. And then Octopussy comes along and gets one of the guards' guns and shoots the lock open, which, you want to make sure it didn't go all the way
she's
through
taking charge in that situation. She's not a damsel. She's not just standing there looking pretty. She's actively helping the situation. So good on Octopussy there.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is the big debate, isn't it, for this film? Because I feel like this is, among other things, Tarzan Yell being one of them and things like that. The clown suit is the major issue for most people, isn't it?
And for me, that's got that isn't even one single bit of a problem.
And I get why that's a problem for people, because ultimately, you look at Bond, do you want to see Bond being the coolest man ever? Looking smooth, looking wicked, being super ladies man. That's what you want from your Bond. And seeing him run around in a clown suit isn't that. So I get why there is that thing. If they'd have done some sequence where he dresses up as a clown and then sort of ran around acting like a clown and, jumped in a cannon and shot across the room and stuff like that, I would say that's probably shit. But ultimately, what it is, it's a necessity. He's got to get in the tent. He does dress up as the clown, which does admittedly look silly. But him as a character is very serious throughout the whole thing. He's all about the goal at hand, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. Which is why I think it works. But also, don't forget, from Octopussy's point of view, she knows nothing about this bomb. So Magda tells her that Bond's gonna basically destroy their whole operation if they open it up and all the jewels are there.
Yeah.
So Octopussy's got to believe Bond over what she thinks is in there, sort of thing. So she's got that to play on. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic scene. I think it's brilliant. The fact everyone's trying to stop him, and then quiet, everyone, quiet. And then you just see the countdown go, and then just as he gets it out, it clicks, and you see the bits come out.
Yeah.
And you don't want anyone to slap him on the back, so he goes forward and then ignites.
That's the thing. The timing on that is impeccable, isn't it? It is literally the last half a second that it finally pops out. Yeah. Similar sort of bomb construction to the Spy Love Me. I would guess. It's pulling it out. That time he couldn't touch the edges, could he? But this time it's like just pulling it out, so the little lugs pop out, and that diffuses the bomb.
And then he gets loads of congratulations from everyone, like, oh, well done and all that. And basically, Octopussy hears from Magda that Khan's gone back to India then. And then that's where we make our next trip. So
yes, before we go to India, I think just to underpin the clown thing, I understand why people don't like it. And I think it's compounded by the fact that it's Roger as well. I think if you were to go in and watch, I don't know, Dr. No from Rush with Love, Goldfinger, and then you were to watch Octopussy, you'd be like, what on earth is going on here? Because it's a very, very big difference. If you take it in the context of who it is, which is Roger, and if you watch Live and Let Die, Spy Love Me, Moonraker, and then watch this one, it would be like, it's kind of fair enough. And I feel like if you accept Jaws as a henchman, which ultimately he's an outrageous creation because he's just a normal flesh and blood human with metal teeth that can bite through massive cables. That's obviously going to fuck up his gums pretty considerably, isn't it? And his whole jaw is going to get messed up. If you can accept Jaws, who is undoubtedly a classic Bond henchman character, then I feel like this exists in that same world. You wouldn't get Jaws in Dr. No or From Russia with Love or Majesties or Casino Royale. So, you wouldn't get Daniel running around in a clown suit. So this is that more fantastical sort of comic book thing. Not that dressing up in a clown suit is fantastical, but it matches the tone of the times that it came in, doesn't it? And I think and that's what I mean about the whole pressure of being the new Bond film. I feel like if you went in to see For Your Eyes Only and you were like, yes, this is getting Bond closer to what he should be, and it's very Fleming-y, and I'm very happy with that. I would imagine if you were that type of fan, going in to see Octopussy as the next film, you'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, because it's not that, is it? You know what I mean? There are elements of it, but it's not the same tone. And I would understand why people would get pissed off at it. But for me, it's again, in the context of it being Roger's film, and it's fun. It's a fun movie, this one. I'm not that put off by it. There maybe have been cooler things that they could have done, but I can't really think of anything. It's not like they should have done that. It's like, what else is he going to do in that situation? Yeah.
No, I've to be honest, I've never had a problem with the clown suit. Never will. For me, that's what he needed. The time thing, maybe, but then you get that in loads of Bonds. So yeah, for me, I think it's great. I just love the fact that he is a clown, but he's acting serious, and he's got to stop the bomb and save the world.
Very
Excellent.
nice.
So we go off to India then, and we see Khan is got these sort of. He's got these sort of little prints of money that he can make his own dollars, pounds, francs, and drachmas wherever he goes. He can be rich. And they hear this noise outside, and Godmother said it's girls selling themselves, and he's like, "Oh, good, it'll keep the guards company, so I can get away," and stuff like that. But obviously, it's Octopussy and Octopussy's girls. Now, I love the way that they kind of access the palace. So they use their circus skills. So they use like these trampolines to get up. They use like a human pyramid to get up. They have ropes that they can climb up and stuff like this, and utilizing all of their skills and stuff like that. And I just think that's really cool. Sort of way, and they're all kick-ass as well. They're all badass.
Yeah.
Sort of
They
girls,
can all
aren't they?
handle themselves, can't they?
Yeah, without a doubt. So basically, there's a bit where one of the guards passes and he's having a drink, and he has a bit of a Victor Torjansky moment, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Sort of sees all the girls and stuff, and then Octopussy has that big pole, which I think is really cool. So they're all lifting it up, and she goes up on this massive sort of pole next to Khan's room, and then as Gobinder sort of goes away, she goes in and sort of says, "Oh, did you think you could ever escape me?" and stuff like that. And then Khan sort of shows her the money prints and said, "Oh, look, we can make millions." But Gobinder's spotted the girls outside, so he tells the guards and raises the alarm. And now this is still interesting. So the guards and Gobinder come back, and they've got these machine guns, and Octopussy's fending them off with a sword. And you think, well, why don't they just shoot her? But obviously, even at this stage, Khan has ordered them to take her, but not to kill her.
Yeah.
So even now, even though they're kind of enemies, like Khan still wouldn't have her killed.
Yeah.
Which is still kind of interesting.
I
think,
wonder
that whole
what the link
relationship.
between them is then. It's almost like, for example, say they were brother and sister and they were still enemies, but he still couldn't bring himself to kill his own flesh and blood. It's that sort of thing. That's the sort of vibe I get. But I wonder what that relationship is between Kamal Khan and Octopussy and why there's so much of a thing there.
Do you think they've ever had a nightcap together and got it down and dirty?
I don't think so, right? That is a thought you might have, but I feel like with the respect he has for her, a no from you has little chance of becoming a yes, and the fact that she's very much in charge, I feel like no, because if he had have ploughed the Octopussy, I feel like he would feel a bit more dominant over her. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so completely.
I don't think that's perhaps the case.
No, I don't know. So there must be something there. Maybe it's her that, with the fact she has got a bit of an army behind her, hasn't she? So, that's got to be respected. I know he's got his guards as well. But, the fact it's this octopus cult, maybe there's that whole thing that, it's just, I'm not sure. It's interesting though, I think. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I love the way, so you got the Octopussy girls outside. They're all entertaining the guards. Like Octopussy gives a signal. Magda's got like a weighted skirt that she whips into someone's face. Another one sort of smashes them, and they all basically get into the palace. And then all hell breaks loose. Now this is quite a cool climatic battle. You've got that massive sort of bad dude who busts out the door and like chucks a few of them around. But overall, the girls basically kick ass, don't they? You've got them swinging around, swinging into the guards, and just taking them out. They've got those little sort of things where they. What are they called? They're a bit like the bowlers in
they are like the bowlers. Bowlers 007.
So,
I don't know what you would call them, but the balls, weighted balls on strings or whatever you'd call it,
and pull them down and stuff like that. So I think that's all really, really cool. And then obviously back in Khan's thing, he like the way he says Octopussy is
Octopussy. Yes,
it's so nice, isn't it? That's probably, you could, like you said before, you could just listen to his voice. Like,
if he read some audiobooks, I'd listen to those all day long. Yeah,
definitely. So what did you think of the whole sort of palace battle?
I think it's great. I think like it harks back to an older version of Bond where there was the big climactic battle with people in matching uniforms. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing, the big assault on the volcano base or whatever it is.
Yeah, or spy.
Yeah, and then the sort of smaller story happening within that backdrop. And then obviously, Bond rocks up with Q in the hot air balloon, which is an interesting, in a Union Jack hot air balloon, which is an interesting choice of transport for this particular mission, isn't it? And the fact that it's not even attempting to sort of fly under anybody's radar. It's like here we are in the middle of India with this gigantic Union Jack balloon.
Yeah. Well, I think the plan was that Octopussy and that lot would invade first. And then they'd sort of rock up just afterwards.
I love how you've got an answer to everything in this movie. You've clearly given this a lot of thought, and I feel like you love this movie as a kid, and then as you've grown up, you thought, "Oh, that's an interesting thing." That sort of doesn't make a lot of sense. Let me see if I can tie that together. And you've done it with every single thing, and I'm proud of you, man. That's good work.
That's all right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really. I mean, it's so funny as well. It's like, I trust you can handle this contraption, Q.
It goes by hot air.
Oh well, you can.
Yeah.
That exchange is just brilliant, isn't it?
Yes.
I think that's fantastic, and they've got little like cameras on there so they can like view what's going on, and they're trying to find Octopussy, and they basically see that she's sort of kidnapped and she's taken away.
Yeah.
And 007, what are you doing? Come back! And Bond basically swings on the rope through the shutter, and he does a really cool roll and shoot. Did you notice that? He sort of lands on the couch. And he does a roll and a shot, but it's really neat. It's very clean, and I quite like that.
Very nice.
And basically, so Khan, Gobinder carry Octopussy and make their escape. And then we've got one of the best moments, I think, in the film, like proper Bondian moment. So he chucks a tiger skin over it and to scare one guard, shoots him. But then you see him rock down, like slide down that banister with a machine gun. I mean, with the Bond music playing, how cool is that moment?
That is a moment I recreated many times as a child. We had in the house I grew up in, there was a staircase with a banister, obviously not as grand and huge as that by a million miles, but like it was enough that you could get a slide on the go. And I'm amazed I hadn't injured myself.
Did you have like a marble ornament at the bottom?
Sadly not. No, it was just a plain old wooden one. But yeah, man, that would have been the business. But yeah, again, there's the sense of humour in this film. There he is sliding down the banister. Like that's not a particularly tactically sound thing to do if you're assaulting a palace, because you're just putting yourself out in the middle of you're a
moving target though.
I guess you're a moving target, yeah. So it's that sort of fantastical action, and there's the sense of humour with the big pineapple thing, and Roger's like, oh. And then shoots it so he doesn't ruin his testicles. No. So it's there it is. But yeah, it's a nice it's a Bondian manoeuvre, I would say. Yeah.
Definitely. And I know we mentioned earlier, like Octopussy, he's not dressed in a lot of kind of cool looking stuff, casual stuff. But he rocks it in this scene. He's got that cool open jacket with the shirt underneath, almost a bit Daniel Craig-esque in terms of what he's wearing. And I think it, compared to a lot of the earlier sort of parts, he actually looks really good in this scene. So he obviously sort of goes to chase after them and sees in his watch, he's got that sort of liquid crystal watch, and he sees her outside, doesn't he? And he sees that little blue ribbon or whatever it is from Octopussy's dress, so he knows that where the escape is, how to get out, sort of thing. And then Gobinder and Octopussy and Khan get on the horseback and make their way to the airplane. And so Bond gets on a horse, goes after them, and there's that cool bit where this guard suddenly is about to shoot the girls, and Q just lowers a balloon on top of him, and they were like, "Oh, Q," and all that. Yeah. And I love that bit with Desmond Llewellyn.
I love that bit as well. I love that bit. I can imagine Desmond's Q wouldn't he would enjoy it, but he wouldn't allow himself to enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Just being surrounded by women like that,
He's like, oh, we're having time for that now.
Yeah.
Later, perhaps. Yeah. And it's like, you could just imagine Q, like, he's just brilliant.
I just love Desmond, man. Q. Every time I see Desmond on screen, I just want to cuddle him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really cool. So we get to the sort of climactic part now. So this is where obviously the plane starts to sort of go down the runway, and Bond's on his horse, and again, like, this is proper ballsy, where he sort of transfers from the horse onto the back of the plane, doesn't he? That's not easy.
I tell you what, man, right? This is a crazy sequence again. Like this is a fantastical action sequence. You jump on the back of a small plane like that, but that stuntman, good God, man! Like he's proper up there, isn't he? Like, and he is literally inching across the top of that plane. I don't even understand how you would have the balls to even begin to do something like that. I'd be nervous if the plane was on the ground that I was going to slip off. But actually being up there and like inching along, I mean, incredible stunt work with that, man. Absolutely incredible.
And visually as well, with the backdrop of the sort of desert or whatever over, it just looks stunning, doesn't it? It looks amazing. So he's obviously Bond's hanging on, and Khan realizes he's there, so he puts the plane into a real steep dive, and then he spins the plane into a 360 to try and chuck Bond off, and he thinks he's got it, and he starts laughing, and then Gomeda's like, look out here, and Bond sort of disables one of the engines, and then we get a fantastic moment as well where Khan is basically like, he'll kill us all, go out and get him.
Out there? There it is. What a line. I love that stuff. Yeah. Is that the first time we hear Gobinder speak?
Is it? No, is it? No, I think. Oh no, because he speaks in Indian at the end of the Tuk Tuk chase, where Bond drives through the advertising building, and he says to his mate, "Chalo," or something like that.
Okay.
But what I love,
it almost feels like a Jaws moment, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It does a bit, yeah. It does a bit, and what I love as well is it's the very first time in the whole film that we see him sort of think twice about obeying Khan. So all through the film, he'd do whatever he's been told, and get out on this plane. And he's like, what? This is the first time, but yet he still does it, doesn't he? He gets his knife in his mouth, a bit like Knick Knack in Man with Golden Gun, and then climbs out to get Bond. Now you got these two people on top of this plane, and it looks amazing. And Khan basically has got his knife and he's like trying to swipe Bond, and then Bond backs over that antenna sort of thing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then swipes it into his face, and then you get the classic. Obviously Gomber flies off, and you get the classic Wilhelm.
You
scream.
do. Ah!
Now, did you know that this has an actual name?
What, the scream sound?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has a massive history in Hollywood, doesn't it? It's like in Star Wars. The stock sound of that scream has been used in a million films. Yeah.
So I looked it up a little bit. It's called the Wilhelm scream, and it's based on a character in when it was first used, like I think it was in an army film or something. Someone was eaten by a crocodile, I think, and the character was Wilhelm, and that's the noise it made. And it's been used, like you said, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings, loads of Disney films, and I'm sure we hear it quite a few times in Bond. It happens the same when
I think
Necros,
when Quarrel dies, isn't it? Isn't Quarrel a Wilhelm scream?
I'm not sure. I know Necros definitely does when he falls off. I think generally it's if there's a big fall, then you kind of hear it. Yeah. So we get that, so that's quite cool. And then Bond sort of maneuvers himself to the end of the plane, doesn't he? Forces the tail down. So again, the plane goes into a dive and then sort of shimmies back to get in to get Octopussy. Now, so we see the plane go into a massive dive, and then Khan's obviously trying to control it. And there's a strip of land, and he sort of tries to get this plane down. And it's sort of bumping. It's not really landing properly. Yeah. And then Bond and Octopussy sort of leap out, and it's right on the edge of a cliff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Octopussy kind of like rolls off. Bond grabs onto her and is holding on, to this little bit of the rock, and the plane flies down. But obviously Khan can't sort of bring it up, and the plane smashes and it blows up and kills Khan.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get his sort of, quite a few of the villains get their one-liner from Bond after they die, and Khan didn't really get one, which is a bit of a shame. But obviously
it should have been. Oh no, because he's already used that. It should have been something like he obviously couldn't keep it up, or something like those.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been really good. Yeah.
But he already used that line at Q's lab, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. Something along those lines, but that would have been quite cool. And then obviously Bond rescues Octopussy. Now, but she's still not screaming, "James, James, help me!" Which other Bond girls might have done. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we cut from that to now this is kind of strange. So we go to MI6. So we see the leader of the KGB having a drink with the defence minister and the leader of MI6 in MI6. Now, do you think that would ever happen, Tom?
Well, there's definitely, since the days of The Spy Who Loved Me, they've been getting on pretty well, haven't they? Bernard Lee's M and Gogol had sort of like a very polite sense of respect for each other. Oh, after you, Alexis. Oh no, after you, Samars. All that stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I feel like they're sort of mates, really. It's like, the head of McDonald's and Burger King meeting up for a chat, because ultimately
exactly like
nobody else would understand their role, would they? It's like they're working for opposite teams, but at the same time they would have a mutual respect for what each one does.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant analogy. I think I think comparison that's outstanding. So I think that's pretty cool. And basically, Gogo sort of wants to congratulate Bond and ask for the return of the Romanov star, which he has. But M sort of says, unfortunately, due to his injuries, he can't make it. And then we cut to Octopussy's barge, where we hear your favourite line: "In,
out, in, out." Yeah, very nice.
Which is beautiful. And Bond in his PJs. Now, that's quite cool.
His gym jams.
He's rocking the PJs. Now, obviously, he's getting his smooch on with Octopussy, and we see his leg sort of rising and rising and rising, which I'm pretty sure, is an indication of something else happening in a similar manner.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure it is. But Octopussy's like, I wish you weren't in such a poor condition. And then Bond just basically like, okay, and just rips it all down. Now, do you think he was actually injured and just fought through the pain, or was it all a ruse from the start just to like kid Octopussy into like?
I think he's probably injured, but he just healed up proper quick.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say because it might not be a braked bone. A broken bone. It might not be a braked bone. It might just be, like some sort of muscle pull or something, which, considering the physical strain he's put himself through in recent times, then that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I would say it's probably the sort of injury where it's like, okay, keep it straight. You've got to rest it up for a few days. And he's like, yeah, all right. Yeah. But then Octopussy's like, come on, I want to have a little a bit of slap and tickle. And he's like,
and you're not going to say no, are you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
just go for it. And then you get the classic. Now, a lot of the latter Rogers, ended with James, and you get quite a lot of that, don't you?
Yes.
Do you think we'll ever see a Bond film again that ends with James?
I hope so, man. I tell you what. Watching these older films has sort of brought to my mind is that I miss Bond being an absolute ladies' man. Do you know what I mean? Like I miss him just being an outright rampant shagger, and I really miss that. Like in Spectre, that scene where Moneypenny goes to Bond's apartment, in the leaked script there was going to be a thing where I think there was either some like underwear draped on the chair or something, and as Moneypenny's leaving, you hear a voice go, "James, come back to bed."
Yeah.
Oh fuck! Why did they take that out, man?
Yeah.
Because like Spectre was meant to be this return to like the classic Bond we've always known, and that would have been a perfect little touch. But I feel like maybe they took that out because it would have maybe detracted from his relationship with Madeline at some point, because they're building that up to be a bigger thing. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. But that was prior. I think that would have been great. Like you said, like if she had walked out and kind of paused and then saw like a bra hanging off a chair and just lifted it up on one finger and looked at James, and maybe he didn't have to say anything. And then you hear just a little rustle, and then she puts it back and then leaves. That would have been brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I missed that because Daniel's Bond has never really been that. Of course, he has random birds at the beginning of Skyfall and stuff, but like he's never had just like I suppose George's antics in Majesties with visiting all the different rooms.
Everyone.
I mean, that's a perfect example of it, and I miss that side of Bond, man. And it's sort of one of my favourite things.
I think following the whole Vesper story, it was quite tricky to do it.
That was.
Obviously, Casino and then Quantum was tricky. I think Skyfall, obviously Severine.
I suppose it's tough because it's such a serious, up until now, such a serious take. Like, you couldn't have done it with Quantum, but because of the previous film. But like by Skyfall, he could have been the ladies' man, but then that was such a serious storyline of the parents and the childhood that I feel like it wouldn't really have matched the tone of that film.
But Spectre definitely would have worked. So hopefully the next one there'll be a little bit more of that type of thing.
Yeah,
we'll have to see. So there we go. So that was the end. A couple of things I noticed in the credits actually.
Go on in.
Tony Broccoli, one of Cubby's sons. He was one of the second ADs in the film. Which is quite second assistant directors on the film.
Very nice.
And Barbara Broccoli, even far back as Octopussy, she was credited as executive assistant.
Really?
So even way back to Octopussy, she was in the credits. So that's really cool, isn't it?
Interesting. That is cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
there we go. Octopussy. What do we
think
then overall?
In the bag. Yes, I was expecting, like I said, this is a film I just haven't watched as much as the other Bond films. Like I said, I could go through You Only Live Twice or Goldfinger or Thunderball or Spyro Love Me, Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun a million times, and it's in my bloodstream. Whereas for whatever reason, this one isn't. And it's similar, like with Your Eyes Only, I watched it a billion times as a kid, so that's in me as well, but I hadn't watched it as much in recent years. This one, for whatever reason, is just one that hasn't flowed through my bloodstream in all that time. I haven't watched it as much. So it is almost like again, because of the podcast, I haven't watched it in a couple of years. So it's like seeing it with fresh eyes again and all that kind of stuff has been quite an interesting journey for me. And I think, again, like we always say, you've got the popular opinion in your mind. Okay, you watch Goldfinger, everyone agrees that's a classic, pretty much. You watch Spy Love Me, and again, everyone agrees that's a classic. Whereas with this one and the films where people don't think quite as highly of it, it's easy to let that colour your opinion. And I was expecting to sort of finish watching this film and be like, yeah, that was a bit rough around the edges. But I didn't. I came away being like, you know what? Okay, yeah, the common criticisms are Roger is older in this film, I think, like I said, it doesn't help that in the wardrobe department, they dressed him in some pretty sort of like, that's not true, cool stuff. For Your Eyes Only, he looks the business in For Your Eyes Only. A couple of dodgy outfits here and there, but largely he looks the business in that. And that doesn't help. The common things, the clown suit, the Tarzan yell, the monkey suit, yeah, I totally get what everybody's saying. But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't, because this is Roger's film, and that's what you get from Roger. And if you're gonna get upset about that, then surely you have to cancel out Jaws. You have to cancel out, so many things from going back to Live and Let Die. You've got to cancel out so many of those things that just you're sort of missing out on it, really missing out on the fun. I think if you let that stuff ruin it, things like the Tarzan, it's over in a second, and it's just like, yeah, all right, but whatever, you know what I mean? It's sort of, it just didn't bother me as much as I expected it to. And overall, I'm like, I came away going, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that, and it was fun experiencing a Bond film again that A, I hadn't seen in a couple of years, and B, was just one that I just hadn't watched very much when I was growing up.
That's cool. I'm really, like I said before, it's really cool that you enjoyed it, because I wasn't sure what you'd think. For me, it's been interesting, because obviously it's one that I've always enjoyed, particularly when I was younger, and I wasn't sure. I hadn't seen it for a while. I really wasn't sure, because I remember, I really like Live and Let Die. I remember watching Spy and being like, wow, how iconic it is, because Spy is iconic. There's no doubt about it. Thinking, wow, there's so much here. Could this be my favourite Rog? And I just find so much enjoyment from watching Octopussy.
Yeah.
I don't know,
you know how Bond has oftentimes piggybacked on a popular thing at the time. Obviously, Moonraker was a reaction to Star Wars. Man with the Golden Gun. Well, actually, that came before the Kung Fu sort of movies became popular, didn't it? Or was it around the time?
No, Kung Fu just before, actually. Yeah, that did sort of...
It oftentimes it has sort of piggybacked on like a bigger trend of the time.
Blaxploitation.
Yeah, perfect example. And I feel like this very much has an Indiana Jones feel about it. Do you know what I mean? It really does. And it's an interesting loop, because Indiana Jones was Spielberg's like version of Bond in a sense. That was like the inspiration for Indy. And it's like, it's fun to see it come full circle, and Bond then borrow from that almost to do this. And it definitely has that feel of old school adventure to it. You know what I mean? And it's like that bit where he's riding on the on the horse to get on the back of the plane. That could be a scene from Indy. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
definitely.
It has that flavour to it, man. And everyone loves Indiana Jones. I don't care what you say or anybody says. And it's just a fun film. If you're gonna take it super serious and be like, well, it's not Casino Royale or From Russia with Love. Well, of course it's not. It's that you don't watch this film if you're looking for that. So
I think I like that Indy comparison. That the egg as well is kind of like a MacGuffin that Indy would go after, like that sort of thing. And I think that's maybe what it is. But also, I think there are so many good scenes where, like, the pre-titles I think is my favourite in the series. I think that's immense. I think that scene with 009 in the forest.
That's
really
your favourite
tense.
pre-title sequence in the whole series?
Either that or Living Daylights. They're my two
Damn,
favourites.
we haven't done that episode yet, have we, of the pre-titles of Bond? So that's going to be interesting.
Not yet.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. All right, nice.
I think Octopussy and the Living Daylights are my two favourite ones. Obviously, Spectre was amazing as well, but those are my two favourite pre-titles. I think the scene in the forest with 009 is brilliant. I think the Sotheby's scene is amazing. I think the the whole sort of just the look of India, it looks so beautiful. I think Magda rocks. Octopussy and Bond are great characters.
Yeah.
Mishka and Grishka are great. Gobinder, there's the backgammon scene, the double sixes.
Oh, the double sixes, yeah.
There's so much good stuff, like the train stunts we mentioned today and all that sort of stuff. The plot, I really like the plot twist. It's complex, but it works.
Yeah,
I think that's really good. There's just so much going for it, which I really enjoy.
I think one of my all-time favourite Bond moments is the double sixes. Fancy that. I adore that moment. It's brilliant. I also love the auction house bit, the Sotheby's section, having the balls to bid on the egg and just have the situation totally in control, and that silent sort of prodding with Kamal Khan as Kamal looks over at Bond, and just that silent, just beneath the surface, bubbling anger. I think that's brilliant, and there's a lot of great stuff in this film, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I wasn't expecting to. Yeah.
No. And Louis Jourdan, I think, is definitely underrated. I think he's brilliant. I think particularly against Roger, that because they're kind of similar ages, and like I said before, they almost try and out-charm each other.
Yeah.
But the looks that guy can give, the expressions, I just love that. I think he's fantastic. Yeah, so overall, it's been wicked. It's been great to revisit it again.
And I do think, again, like I mentioned just now, like the pressure of being the new Bond film, right, is almost like it's very difficult to like deliver on that. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you went to see Octopussy in 1983 and it was the new Bond film and you'd enjoyed For Your Eyes Only because it was back to Fleming, I think you would perhaps be disappointed in it maybe. Whereas when it's always been a classic film, when you were a kid, it came out, years and years ago or whatever, and it was just always been part of that series. You don't hold it to that same degree of criticism. Do you know what I mean? And I feel...
Equally though, people might have watched Spy, Moonraker, and really loved the outlandishness, and then gone, For Your Eyes Only was a bit slow.
Absolutely,
Where's all the humour in that? And then suddenly Octopussy rocks back, and then like, bloody hell, that's got everything. It's got suspense.
Yeah.
It's got humour. It's got action. It looks great.
I remember some people when Casino Royale came out, and I was going apeshit about it, and their review was, wasn't enough gadgets, and it's like, A, shut up, but B, like, that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like that it's those different audiences. When you're a Bond fan, you're not necessarily, there are subsets of Bond fans within that, isn't it? The people who love Roger, the people who can't stand Roger, the people who love Sean, the people who don't, and it's just serving up something to that particular audience within the wider audience. And yeah, man, I think there's a lot going for Octopussy. Visually, it's amazing. The characters are great. Like Gobinder is a sort of striking kind of dude. I feel like you could have, the addition of the buzzsaw could have like elevated him a little bit and given him that thing that a henchman sorely needs. But Mishka and Grishka were brilliant. Like, we've never seen that before, that kind of thing, like a pair of identical twins from the circus who were knife throwers. That is such a Fleming concept, isn't it? It just feels right, and it's you've got the octopus, which is a very symbolic Fleming thing. The circus, that's a very Scaramanga type thing. There's so much going for this, man, and I'm surprised at myself that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because I was expecting to just make excuses for it. But I'm like, do you know what? Fuck it. No, I genuinely enjoyed it. And who gives a shit if he does a Tarzan yell? It's Roger Moore, for crying out loud.
And also, Bond is real. I've said this loads of times in this podcast, but he does so many cool things in Octopussy, like real,
Yeah.
like jumping from, like we said, the horse to the plane, the train. He's proper ballsy in this, like, and I think I appreciated that quite a lot as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, there we go, Octopussy.
There it is, another one in the bag.
Okay, so we've wrapped up Octopussy. Now, how for you does it compare to the other Rogers or the other Bonds? It's quite hard. I know we always said it's really hard to sort of rank them, but what's your kind of feeling of it compared to the others?
I feel, like it's a tough one to do that. It really is a tough one because it sounds bad when I say this. Live and Let Die is my firm Roger favourite, right? And
it's a good one. That one.
In terms of like how I think of them and stuff, and the ones that meant most to me as a kid and all that kind of stuff, it does do a sliding scale where Live and Let Die for me is my favourite, and then Man with the Golden Gun is my second favourite, Spy is my third, and then it just goes down to this sort of thing. So it's sort of like the further you get along, the worse they get in a sense. But like, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed Octopussy. I don't really have any complaints. It's kind of, I don't know. It's a tough one to rank them, man. It really is. Like, it's that sounds awful when I say the further along you go, the worse they get. But it's just, there's so many factors at play. Whereas Live and Let Die was someone I always loved as a kid and things like that. And I was always terrified of Jaws when I was a kid. So I didn't even really watch Spy Love Me or Moonraker that much when I was a kid because he scared me too much. It wasn't until I was, at least 25, 26, I had the bravery to do it. So, there's so many factors at play there, man.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I guess for me, saying before about Octopussy, I still think if I haven't watched a Roger in a while and I want to put one on and have fun with it, it will be Octopussy. And I think, like you with Live and Let Die, Octopussy was the Rog that I used to watch the most when I was younger, or reenact or think about. And it has got that indie sort of feel to it, which I'm a huge indie fan. So I think I'd still probably have to go with Octopussy, but I think Spy and I think Live and Let Die are right up there as well for me.
Absolutely.
But you just gotta love. They're just all good in the
and it's worth watching for no other reason than Christina's wonderful dismount from the balcony and the glorious display you have at the end of that. So if you're not going to watch it for anything else, tune in for that.
That's something else I've grown to admire on this viewing is how much Magda there is, and it rocks. Yeah, definitely, which is cool. For
sure,
good stuff.
So
what time it is?
What time is it, Chris?
It's time for Bond Facts. Flames, explosion, fire. Bond Facts.
What have you got for us this week then, Crispy Pants?
Okay, so Octopussy Part 2 Bond Facts. We have, speaking of the lovely lady, Christina Wayborn, whose real name is Britt Inger Johansson.
Ooh,
now, did you know that?
I didn't know that. I've learned something today.
Now, she broke several toes while shooting the attack on the Monsoon Palace. Apparently, a bazooka she was meant to kick out of one of the thugs' arms was supposed to be replaced by a plastic model, but the stuntman was holding a metal one by accident. That's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of stuntman, Martin Grace, who we mentioned earlier, had a serious accident while filming on the train. Now, he was obviously standing in for Bond when he was hanging on the side of the train. And during filming, they went into a part of the track that hadn't been assessed. So I think, they must have just, however it happened, they went into a part of the track which they hadn't looked at. And basically, there was a massive pylon on the side, and it was dead close to the train, and there was no way that he could pull himself in. So he smacked side on in full force onto this concrete pylon, smashed his hip completely, obviously had to go to hospital, damaging his leg as well, and he was in hospital for several months.
Damn.
Being the strong man he is, he made a full recovery. He was obviously the stunt guy in View to a Kill on the Golden Gate Bridge on the next film, so that's fair play to him, man.
Damn.
Again, crazy. So you get that sort of thing that happens, and I don't know if you noticed, but the guy with the yo-yo buzzsaw, when he was pulled over the balcony onto the bed, he broke his arm. And for the rest of that scene, you can see he's wearing a cast. I think they've put sort of yes, they've sort of coloured it a little bit so you couldn't see it as much. But there is a part where if you kind of like look closely, you can see he's wearing a cast. And but he had shot so much of it, and he obviously wanted to finish it, that they sort of let him do it. So these stunt guys, you gotta give them props.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, I looked into the whole blue-ringed octopus. So here's another. I think we could have like a Bond science segment.
Bond science, yes.
Bond science. So the Bond science for this week is.
Oh, you know what the little quotation would be at the end, wouldn't it? It would be Bond science. Science was never my strong suit.
That's brilliant. I think we should do that.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of Bond science. Okay, so the blue-ringed octopus, genus Hapaclina, are recognised as one of the world's most venomous marine animals. Despite its small size, it carries enough venom to kill 26 adults within minutes.
Damn.
Yeah, their bites are tiny and often painless, with many victims not realising they have been envenomated until respiratory depression and paralysis start to set in.
Jesus.
Okay, there is no anti-venom for the blue-ringed octopus. At least it's not available yet, so it's one of the deadliest inhabitants in the ocean. Now, it produces, in its venom, it contains tetrodotoxin, histamine, tripitamine, octopamine, which is quite...
Right, I'm glad you're pronouncing these and not me. Go on, carry on.
Taurine, acetylic, oleine, and dopamine. So this is all within its venom. The venom itself can result in nausea, respiratory arrest, heart failure, and severe and sometimes total paralysis, blindness, and death within minutes if not treated. So you're not going to be all smiles if you get bitten. Now, death, if it occurs, is normally due to suffocation, due to paralysis of the diaphragms. So that's the muscle within your lungs to help you breathe. And that obviously is paralysed and you can't breathe properly. Now, the main sort of part of the venom is tetrodotoxin, and that is 1,200 times more toxic than cyanide. Which is pretty crazy. And it is also found in pufferfish, the Japanese delicacy, and in some poison dart frogs. So that's something to be avoided at all costs.
Damn. Yeah, that sounds intense, doesn't it? Why does it need poison that deadly for? What's it got to fight off, for crying out loud?
Well, mainly it doesn't. I think the interesting thing about this animal is when it feels threatened, the rings actually become more luminescent, more translucent. So the blue rings are like real, they stand out as a warning. But if it gets beyond that, then it will try and bite. But it's normally a last
ditch effort.
Yeah, exactly.
And do they have these things in Thailand? Where do they live?
I think actually there's loads in Thailand.
Oh, shit.
No, they're in the class. They are in Southeast Asia actually, and they're in Australia and South America. So all the warm waters. So just watch out next time you go for a little swim.
All right, we'll
do. Down there. Okay. But I thought that's quite cool. So there we are. That's Bond science for this week.
Good stuff.
So on to Bond fact number 4. Now, Raymond Sanchez, he wrote Star Trek 2, I believe. He spoke to Michael G. Wilson, who informed him about Sean Connery doing Never Say Never Again, and how they wanted a concept that would be so, that the others couldn't copy or anything like that. So it was actually this Raymond Sanchez guy who came up with the concept that they had a female villain, because of course that hadn't really been done, with a female criminal organisation running a circus as a front with a train. But Wilson said, okay, that's, there's something in that, but the novel Octopussy, we want to kind of use something from that, but it's such a short story. How do we do it? So this guy basically said that the woman lead could be made not such an evil villain, but more the daughter of the man in the story. Major Dexter Smythe, etc., whose father's pet name for her was Octopussy, tying her into the octopus nicely. Make her Bond's love interest, and then the leading Bond girl, and then he had his story. So that's quite cool. So this guy put a lot of his ideas to help Michael G. Wilson craft the story, along with George McDonald Fraser, who knew all about India, and he helped on that side of things. But do you think Mickey G remembered the name Sanchez and was like, now that'll be good for you?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. That's an interesting little link, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So Bond fact number 5, Feldstadt is a fictitious German city created for the film, but there is an actual town in Germany called Feldstadt. Now, that's a population of only 4,160 people. Now, Karl-Marxstadt, which was in the film, is now known as Chemnitz.
Interesting.
So there we go. Okay, so bomb fact number 6. Now, when be at least 20 miles away before the bomb goes off, warns the Soviet officer, when he instructs Gobinder. Apparently, although this is really good advice, the surface detonation of a 100k nuclear weapon would be easily survivable at already a third of that distance. So even if you were closer and you knew of it in advance, you could take minor precautions. For a weapon that size, the 5 psi air blast, I think we're going into more science territory here, where most residential buildings will be blown apart, only goes out to about 1.5 miles of where detonation is. The thermal radius, where you'd get third-degree burns if you're caught out in the open, is probably 2.5 miles away from the main explosion. But you'd have to stay upwind because, being a surface blast, you could get severely irradiated some 45 miles away. So you don't want to be downwind when that thing goes off.
Damn.
Do you, Tom?
Yeah, I would say avoiding the explosion itself would be tough, but it's all the radiation that comes with it. So you'd want to be as far away as you possibly could. Yeah,
definitely. So we'll have to remember that if it ever happens.
Yeah.
Bomb fact number 7: Octopussy's real name is apparently Octavia Charlotte Smythe.
Now, how do we know that?
That's what the bomb fact says. Now, this is it. Sometimes people sort of come up with names and sometimes they're bandied about. Now, I don't know if there's any officiality behind this one, but it sounds good. Octavia Charlotte Smythe. Yeah. Obviously, Smythe is right, Octavia. So, yeah, I mean, let's go with it. It sounds good enough.
I wonder if she had an uncle called St. John, and that's where he got the idea for the next one.
I think so. Yeah, probably right. Bomb fact number 8: the ending sequence with the Beech 18 aircraft was filmed in Utah using an old rocket launch catapult. But when the plane went over the edge, because its engines were still going, it was meant to fly straight down and crash. But because the engines were still going, it basically glided. This plane was full of explosives because it was meant to obviously be the main thing. And it flew in a circle over a busy freeway. So if it had crashed, it would have proper done some damage. But luckily, it flew over that into an unpopulated area, and it was harmless. And then the actual crash was done in miniature in the end. But that would have been pretty dodgy.
Yeah.
See this plane just flying overhead. But there we go. Bomb fact number 9: the last Octopussy is the last Bond film to reveal the name of the next Bond film during the end credits, namely From a View to a Kill. Obviously, that was changed then to A View to a Kill. And lastly, bomb fact number 10: graffiti was written in green by an unknown person or agent on the Berlin Wall seen after production, which read, 007 was here, Octopussy. Now, when the Berlin Wall came down, who do you think nabbed that bit? Because I would love that.
Yeah, I'd have grabbed that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting. I wonder who wrote that. Maybe it was Roger.
Yeah, it could have been Roger. It could have been. Yeah, interesting. So there we go, bomb facts for today.
Good stuff. Excellent work. So I think it's about time we answer our Bond trivia questions, don't you?
I think so. So my question to you, Mr. Thomas, was, in which Bond films do we see James Bond behind the controls of an aeroplane?
Right.
While in flight.
This is a trick question, I think. I think you're trying to lure me in so I can make a question, I can answer, and you'd be like, no, he wasn't behind the controls, he was just on the plane. So my initial thoughts would be Goldfinger. We see Pussy at the controls, and I do believe he comes in and grabs the controls off her and tries to pull up. Would I be correct in saying that?
I would definitely go with that, yeah. So that's in the presidential plane at the very end. He does sort of try to help us. So I'll say, I'll definitely give you that one.
So there's that one. Thunderball, I don't believe he gets in a plane.
Only underwater and it's not moving, so he doesn't really
okay.
the Vulcan. But so we won't count that, so that's fine.
You Only Live Twice, obviously, with when she's got him in the back of the plane, she parachutes out.
Helga, yes, well done, excellent. Okay,
but he does grab the controls.
Yeah, well, he has to land it, doesn't he?
Of course he does. Yeah, of course he does. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So You Only Live Twice. There's no plane in Majesties. Diamonds, no plane. Live and Let Die with Mrs. Bell.
Yes.
Let's
Excellent
wing it,
stuff.
shall we, Mrs. Bell?
Yeah.
Man with the Golden Gun when he flies to Scaramanga's Island.
Yeah, brilliant.
Spy Love
Seaplane.
Me, no plane. Moonraker, no plane.
No. Some people might say the space shuttle, but it's not really a plane.
No,
so
it's not a plane. It's not a plane.
So.
For Your Eyes Only, no plane. Octopussy, no plane. Apart from the one at the end. He doesn't get to the controls though, does he?
The one at, well, what about the Acrostar jet?
Oh, fucking what an idiot. What an idiot. Yes, of course. Of course there's a plane in Octopussy, dickhead. Right, yes, that one. View to a Kill, no plane? No plane. Living Daylights, obviously, at the end in Afghanistan.
Yes.
Yes.
Good man, good man.
License to Kill, yes, after the barefoot water skiing sequence. He gets in the plane there.
Brilliant. Well done, man. Well done. I'm liking this.
GoldenEye, he gets in the plane when he's scoping out the dish.
Good man. Oh, mate. You're doing
Tomorrow Never
cracking.
Dies in the pre-title sequence. He's in the jet fighter.
Yep. Love it.
The World Is Not Enough. No plane. No plane. Die Another Day. Can't remember. Probably no plane.
There's a big Antonov plane at the end, but I think it's more he doesn't. I don't see him behind the controls. I might be wrong, but again, I haven't seen that one, so we'll just say no on that one.
And then for Daniel, I think the only time we see him in a plane is in Spectre.
Spectre when he's shot by Hinks. There is one more. So I tell you what you got. So you got Goldfinger. You've got You Only Live Twice. You've got Live and Let Die. You've got The Man with the Golden Gun. You've got Octopussy. I'm glad that you got that.
Yeah.
You've got The Living Daylights. You've got License to Kill. Got GoldenEye. Got Tomorrow Never Dies. And got Spectre. There is one more that I can think of. And I'll give you a big clue.
Go on in.
What you just said to me wasn't 100% accurate.
The only time Daniel was in the plane is Spectre. Okay, so he's obviously in a plane more than once. Casino. I don't remember him being in a plane in Casino. Oh, fucking idiot. Quantum of Solace, of course. Quantum of Solace. They're flying out over the desert. There's a little plane chase. He's in the big old bucket plane.
He's in the DC-3,
Of course, yes.
There we go, mate.
What an idiot.
That is top notch. I love it. Excellent stuff.
All
So
right.
there you go, got them all.
So my question to you is considerably easier than that one. Is, in which film do we hear Bond humming?
I don't know. I haven't put my brain onto thinking mode at the moment.
All right. So if I give you the hum, then that might ring a bell.
Okay.
Did that help at all?
God, mate, I'm gone blank. Mind fart. Any other clues?
If I told you it was a money penny scene, would that help?
Okay, maybe. Oh, Dr. No.
Yeah!
Yeah, of course it is. Oh, sorry, man. Yeah. God, I was way mind farting then.
No worries.
Dr. No, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. Yeah, nice little bit. Cool.
Good
I need
stuff.
a lot of help on that one.
No worries. As did I. I made 2 fatal errors in my one, so it's all right. We're okay. Good stuff. So moving on then, it's time for the Guess the Quote round.
Bon. James Bond.
Very nice. Now, I believe it was your quote last time, if I remember correctly.
It was, in fact, yeah, it was my quote. So, would you like to hear it again?
Yes.
So, my quote for this week's podcast is, "The Cold War is not, I say again, not imminent."
I think that is... it's one of those where I know it's a scene, I just can't remember which film it is. It's like like I said last time, like the United Nations scenes, they happen at the beginning of several films, and it's like, oh, which one was that? Which is the one with the headphones where he passes out?
Yeah.
Is that You Only Live Twice, or is it Live and Let Die? I think...
Do you want a clue?
I think it's You Only Live Twice.
I'd say you're 100% right. Can
And
you
it's
tell
the
me?
dude at the end, like, they're gonna launch the rockets or some shit. Bond blows up the baddie rocket, so he cancels that American fella, cancels the rocket launch. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Really impressed with that, man. That's awesome. Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
man.
exactly the dude. That is the guy.
All
it's
right.
interesting, isn't it? When you get little bits, and there could be 1 or 2, 3 similar scenes in totally different films. But yeah, nailed it. Excellent.
All right, so I've got a quote for you this time. Are you ready for it?
I am. Hit me with
Are
it.
you okay? I've got to sort of get into character for this a little bit. So just
Okay.
just give me a minute.
Okay.
I've got to really feel this one.
sorry.
All right, here we
Okay.
go. Ahmed.
Wow. I like it. Okay.
I'm going to do it for you one more time for anybody who's struggling.
Yeah, go for it.
Ahmed.
You look like you're constipated.
Well, that is part of the performance, Chris. I will be honest.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
he's on the toilet at the time. Right.
Yes.
That's a good clue. I'll have
Yes.
to think about that. Good performance. Excellent.
Thanks,
okay.
mate.
I'll have a good think about that one.
All right, coolio.
Cool. Good stuff.
So I believe we had a JBR listener quote from good old Jack Taylor. Now, Jack Taylor, if you don't remember, was one of the elite 00 members who came to the Spectre screening in London, and he was one of the last fellas standing at the casino on Leicester Square with us after the big Spectre celebrations. So shout out to Jack. Should we have a listen to what he quoted us last time?
Let's do it. Let's have a listen.
Let's do it.
Gently, my friend, gently.
Now, that's a great performance. That has to be said. Sometimes you get a quote come through where it's like, oh, I know who that is, but the performance isn't there. This time the performance is very strong. The delivery is there, the tone of voice. It's all good, man. Yeah, I'm impressed with that. Good on you, Jack. So any idea who that is, Chris?
I think I do. I'm pretty sure I do. And to be honest, that was as close to hearing the original as you're going to get. So I'm going to flip that back to you, if you don't mind.
Now I've said that,
any
I might
ideas?
get it wrong. I might be like, oh, it was a great performance, and then I've got the whole thing wrong. I think it's Karen Bay.
Okay.
You don't think it's Karen Bay, do you?
No, I don't. I think no, I don't. No. Shall I tell you? Shall I give you a clue
do
as
you
to
know
who I
what
think
I've
it
done?
is?
Do you know what I've done? I
What?
think I've got it confused with Charming. That one.
yeah.
That's
That is
what
very
I've done.
It
It
is
is very similar, isn't it? So
That
maybe
is true.
Okay, so go on then. Give me a clue.
So
who
who
do you
I
think
think it is, I think he is saying this to his pet.
To his pet.
Yeah, or one of it.
I don't know. Go on then. Tell me more. Who do you think it is?
So a potential main villain.
Largo.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, at least
yeah.
that's who I think it is. You
Yeah.
know when I think it's when Quist comes back? I think so. And the sharks are in the pool, and they start splashing around, and then I think that's when he looks to them and says that.
All
I
right.
think
Yeah.
so.
No. That's the. Now you're saying that I can hear the
Yeah.
Largo in him.
But
So
it sounds
there's
like
me
Largo.
saying it does sound like Largo now you say that, but
Yeah.
it also sounds a bit like Karen Bay. So should we have a listen and find out who
It
who
does.
is?
You're right with that charming bit. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's turn over to Jack then.
Hey guys, Jack Taylor calling back with the answer to the listener quote. So in case you forgot, here it goes. Gently, my friend, gently. And that, of course, is good old Emilio Largo to his pet shark and Thunderball. Thanks for having me on, guys. Much appreciated, and I'm already looking forward to the next episode. Keep it up.
So there we have it. You got it right, Chris. Well done.
Nice. Well, like I said, that was pretty much Adolfo Celli's. Well, no, it wasn't because he was voiced by Robert Wrighty. Wasn't
Yeah.
He? So it was, but it sounded just the same. I like props to Jack for that. That was
Yeah.
brilliant.
Well done,
So
Jack.
we have a new listener quote this week. Now this is from Thomas Heasley. So should we have a listen to that one? And see
Let's do it. Let's see what Thomas has got for us.
Hi guys, Thomas Heasley in Belfast. Giving you another guess a quote. This is probably quite easy, but it's one of my favourite all-time lines. What are you trying to pull?
Yeah, I'm stumped on that one.
Do you know what? I think if there was one more word added to that particular sentence, I think you'd get it straight away. If it's a person I think it is, I think it just needs one more word in there, and I think you'd get it straight away. But the accent is good. The accent was really good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I'll get
Tough one. Again, tough one, though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good stuff. Thank you for that, Mr. Heasley. We will hopefully get the answer to that, and we'll play it next time. So that's the Guess the Quote round taken care of this week, Chris. You know what time it is for? Do you know what time it is? What time is it, Chris?
It's time for...
Who wrote the score for Live and Let Die? Who played Helga Brandt? How did she die? Who wants to stockpile the water in Bolivia? It's Tommy Trivia.
That's right. It's time for Tommy Trivia. Now, for the uninitiated, basically, Chris takes me through the 007 Trivial Pursuit deck and asks me the questions, and I do my best to answer them. So, what have you got for me this time, Chris?
Okay, so this time I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to start with crew and behind the scenes.
Lovely.
Now, this is quite a good question. License to Kill was the last Bond film for titles director Maurice Binder. Which previous 2 Bond films did Binder not work on?
Oh, good Lord. This is difficult. This is difficult, man.
So they don't normally come up like that with the difficult ones, do they?
Damn. This is the first time I've been truly stumped by the 007 Trivial Pursuit.
I think if you go
if
through
I think
you'll
about
get
it, I could possibly do it. All right. License to Kill was his last one.
Yeah.
So which ones seem to be a bit different than the other ones? I would say... Oh, no, I can't. I don't know. Do you
want a big hand?
Yes, please.
Start early. So...
Well, he did Dr. No.
Yep.
Did he not do From Russia with Love? I don't know. I feel like he did. I feel like he just did all of them. I'm going all squeaky voice. I don't know. Fuck, man. I've screwed that up now. I don't know. Go on, tell me.
That's all right. So the only 2 that he didn't do were From Russia with Love and Goldfinger.
No way.
Yeah,
he didn't do Goldfinger.
No, they were done by Robert Brownjohn, I think. And so Binder did the whole silhouette circles for Dr. No, but it was Brownjohn's idea to have the person, this naked girl with the pictures on in Goldfinger, and obviously the belly dancer in From Russia.
Well, I've learned something today. I would have bet good money on the fact that he did Goldfinger at least.
Yeah. And then Binder obviously came back for Thunderball, and then brought... If you think about all the colours and everything, like if you think about Goldfinger and From Russia, they've got the movement of the body with stuff sort of, with film on it or titles on it, but you haven't got all that colour, have you?
Yeah.
You've just got that, whereas Binder was all about the colour. So he did all that. But yeah, there we go. So that's quite a tricky one.
No, it is a tricky one.
Now this one might be tricky, but I think you'll get it. So we're on to locations. At what club do Professor Dent and Playdell Smith play cards?
I do know this because I read the book recently. What club do they play cards? Bollocks. Mate, I breezed through it last week, didn't I?
Last week, it was the best I've ever seen.
It wasn't even, I didn't even have to try. And then 2 out of the gate this week are stumping me. What club? It's like the Royal Yacht Club or something like that.
Royalty is on the right line. Think along royalty. The something club, and it's along the lines of royalty.
The Royal British Legion Club?
No, one word. Shall I give it to you? Or
go on in. Yeah, go on in and give it to me.
The Queen's Club.
The Queen's Club. It is the Queen's Club, isn't it?
The Queen's Club. That's it. Is that the same in the novel as well?
Probably. It does ring a bell now.
So this is tricky. Yeah, this is tricky. Okay, so on to gadgets and weapons. What does Bond kill using Dr. Goodhead's gold pen?
Fuck. What does Bond kill using... Oh, easy. The massive snake.
Yeah, the python. Well done. Okay, we're on the board. We're on the board. Here we go.
We're on the ball there, yes.
Okay, so vehicles. What type of vehicle does Bond push Teehee from the window of?
Gee, let me think. A train.
Indeed,
I've redeemed myself. Yeah.
How can you have something like that? Okay, so the films. How much money does Draco offer Bond as a dowry to marry?
£1 million.
He does indeed, £1 million.
But I don't need you. I don't need your £1 million.
Now, finally we're on to casting characters. Last question. Which future Best Actress Oscar nominee played Miranda Frost?
Rosamund Pike.
You'd like to Pike her, wouldn't you, Tom?
Certainly, especially if she wears that little fencing outfit that she wears at the end. I'll happily get on board with that.
Yeah, lovely, Chubby. So there we go. So yeah, you definitely redeemed yourself with 4, but the first 2 were tricky ones, weren't they?
They were, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really good ones. So there we go. Nicely done. Nicely done.
Cool stuff. All right, then, next round, it's time for... It's the music cue. That's right, it's time for Guess the Music Cue. So, should we start off with the one you played for us last week, Chris?
Yes, definitely. One that I think you got almost straight away.
All right, let's do it. Okay, I'm confident, Chris. I don't know whether my confidence is well placed or, like I was with Karen Bay, it's not well placed. So I'm just going to come out with it. And I think if I was to quote the next piece of music, so it's like, the next bit would be on a saxophone. And I think it's Diamonds Are Forever.
Got the film.
And I think it's when he gets his little piton gun out and does a bit of swinging around.
Absolutely amazing. Mountaineering outside the White House.
There
Brilliant. That's exactly where it is. Excellent
Lovely
stuff, Tommy. I could see you were confident straight away and nailed it.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a new music cue for this week. I'm really interested to see what you think of this one.
All right. So, let's get cracking. Let's have a listen.
Yeah. So what do we think of that?
I think I've got that, actually.
Yeah?
I think I do. Yeah, I think I do.
Okay, good
All
stuff.
right.
Good stuff. Well, we'll find out next time.
We will. All right,
Cool.
Good stuff. So, next up then, it's time for... What's the next line?
Pew, 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 pew.
Good stuff. Now, this game for the uninitiated is a bit like Guess the Quote, but the other person has to deliver the following line from the script. So if, for example, the question was, do you expect me to talk? The other person would have to answer, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Now, it's my one this week, isn't it?
It is indeed.
All right. So are you ready for it?
Yes, go for it.
2,000,003. Our expectations were considerably higher, number 11.
Oh, I kind of. What is it? Oh, that's so good.
Do you want me to do it again?
Yeah, go on, and I'll try and find it straight away. Okay.
2,000,003. Our expectations were considerably higher, number 11.
Competition from Latin America. Prices are down.
Yes!
Is it?
He's done it. He's done it. Yes. I have already taken that into consideration, or whatever he says after that.
Yeah.
Nice one, man. I thought you would get the competition from Latin America, but I was counting on the fact that you wouldn't get Prices Are Down. And you got it both, man. I'm impressed with that.
So am I. That was a really hard one. That was really good. All right. Okay, cool. I'm quite chuffed with that. Thanks.
Yeah, you should be, man. That's good stuff.
Okay, wicked. So, yeah. So that's what's the next line. I'll get my one on for next time. So it's time for Bond Girl Battle.
Oh, James.
I like you better without your Beretta.
Very nice. There it is.
Okay, so
we're on to round 6, aren't we, this week?
We are. So just as a quick recap for the first 5. So we've got Solange, went through in round 1. Poli Vanova, round 2. Tracy in 3. Melina Havelock, 4th. And in the last round, Solitaire went through. So we're on to round 6. Now, just again, for everyone that doesn't know about it, this is where I've got my lovely Moonraker hat. And I've got a load of Bond girls in here that are from all different cards and trumps and all this sort of thing. So I'll go through them all. Tom tells me when to stop. I'll pull one out, and then we do 3 of those, and then we have a battle to see who.
Very nice.
Best.
I wanted to make a joke
so,
out of you pulling one out there, but I'm not going to. It's too low.
You can. It's all right. It's not too late.
All right. Very nice. So now. And now.
Okay.
Last one.
Okay.
And now.
Okay, now, here we go. So, the first one, who we have... Ooh, this is quite interesting. Okay, so the first one we've got is a newbie. Ooh. It's none other than Madeline Swan.
Looking very good in that dress, I have to say. Good Lord.
That is one beauty of a dress, isn't
Yeah.
it? I think it suits her down to the ground. And so she's epic. So there we go. Now, second up, we have... This is going to be a tough round, I know it. We've got Tatiana Romanova.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, lovely. Looking rather good. She likes the choker. She likes the
she
neck
does.
choker. Ah, unbelievable. The next one up, we've got Fiona Volpe. From Thunderball. There she is.
There you go. You're going to have some troubles with that one, aren't you? Good Lord.
I think I might do.
Okay, so recap, who are the 3?
Tough. So we've got Madeline Swan, we've got Tatiana Romanova, and we've got Fiona Volpe. This is a hard round.
That is a tough round.
Remember, we're thinking characters first, and then looks after. So
if at all possible. Yeah, that's what we
is
attempt
hard.
to do.
Okay, so Madeline Swan pulled out first. What do we think of Madeline Swan?
Okay, character-wise,
yes.
She's tough.
She is.
She knows how to hide. She's better than me. She's smarter than I am. So she's clever. She knows how to hide. If Bond says, "Here you go, let me show you how to use this gun," she already knows.
No
she
need.
She doesn't even need to know. She knows. And then when the man comes to visit, he didn't know that Daddy keeps the gun with the bleach, and she's in there as a child shooting this geezer down, right, saving her dad. So she doesn't mess about, does Madeline? She's like hardcore. She's tough as nails, and she never really, apart from when they physically tie her down into a chair with a bomb under her seat, she's never really the damsel, is she? She's hiding away nicely. Bond comes along and ruins it, leads Mr. Hinks to her, and then so she gets captured purely from the incompetence of Bond. At the end of the day, it has to be said.
And also she's very strong. Like she in the train fight with Hinks, she comes out. I know, and helps Bond. So she doesn't just carry away.
She gets stuck in, doesn't she?
Yeah. She gets a slap for efforts, and obviously is almost sort of strangled by him. So she's proper brave. She also has any other woman ever said no to Bond? She walks away from him at the end, doesn't she?
That's a good point.
Has anyone else said that? In fact, there's one other woman in it who could kind of say that she did something similar within this round as well. But Madeline Swan straight up said, right, I don't want to be with you, and walked away. And that you've got to have guts and character to do that, which is very good. And she faced up to sort of, I guess, Blofeld towards the end. She didn't show any sort of, sort of thing against him. So she's one.
She's the one that threw the watch at him as well. So she's the one that gave him the fucking scar. There's a lot to be said for that.
Definitely. I mean, I can't see many cons with her at the moment.
No, she's very strong, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Madeline Swan. So let's go to Tatiana Romanova.
Okay, so she's a little bit insecure. She's worried about her mouth being too big, Chris. So that's a potential con. You don't want to be with somebody who's constantly like, oh no, I don't like my legs or my eyeballs are too small or whatever. Like it's just a pain in the arse, isn't it? She's okay. So let's look at the cons first, because I feel like there are a few here. So she's quite sort of easily led, isn't she? Bless her heart. She's quite easily led. She's she's not keeping her mind on task. Bond's getting the information about the legend. Gems will made love to me when we get to land, and he's like, day and night, go on about the mechanism, which I love it. I love that.
That sounded a bit like Borat, but
You make love to me. Yes, it did. So there's that. However, she is the one that shoots Rosa Klebb.
she is.
So
And
she does get stuck in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She could have had the choice of Bond and Rosa Klebb because
Yeah.
you know she thought she was doing it for Mother Russia, and obviously
Yeah.
she does shoot Klebb. She's also steals the blueprint of the consulate, which she leaves in St. Sophia Mosque for Bond to pick up. So she's willing to do that, and obviously helps sort of with the Lecter decoder and getting that out and stuff like that. Yeah. So she's not all cons. She's definitely got some pros.
Yeah.
She I think the naivety is definitely present there at some point.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Okay. All right then. So let's have a look at Fiona then. Fiona Volpe.
Okay, so she's a baddie, right? She's a bad girl, which, let's face it, has its pros as well as its cons.
She likes wild things.
She likes wild things with the Bond. She loves Bond. Yeah, so she's got that.
That's Borat.
Okay, it was. Yes. Okay. So the fact that she's a killer, like she doesn't mind killing people, is pretty sort of bad, isn't it? You don't
Not at all.
You don't want to do it.
In fact, she
willy-nilly.
enjoys it.
She probably enjoys it a little bit, but on the other side of that coin, she's going to be amazing in the old sack because she's a bit mental, isn't she? So that's going to be great. She's beautiful. Let's face it. She can ride a motorcycle. She's got a strong personality. She can command men around. Let's face it, in the 60s, it was a man's world back then. Still is to some degree, but even more so back then. Man's world styly, yet she was in command of men. She's a Spectre agent, so she's tough.
Well, she's good with a gun. She shoots a clay pigeon.
Yeah.
She kills Count Lippy with the rocket from the bike. She doesn't mind speed. She drives a bike fast. She drives a car fast.
Yeah.
She the way that she kind of knows that Bond's got a gun under his pillow the whole time, she's super smart. She sets him up. The fact that he thinks that he normally shags a girl, and then she's immediately repents and turns them to the side of right and virtue, but not this one. She's completely.
She's going to have the peen, but it's not going to affect her on an emotional level. No. She's still going to be the same woman, which has to be respected.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and obviously she did similar. She seduced Angelo, obviously the guy who then became plastic surgery sort of copy.
Yeah.
And she's proper tough. She's obviously leads that chase to get Bond, and they go into the Kiss Kiss Club, and she obviously Bond then she gets shot by her own person. But up until that point, I think she controls.
She's
everything
a
that
very,
she wants to.
very strong contender.
Yeah.
So let's start with the weakest then. I would say the weakest out of the three would be Tatiana. Would you agree with that?
I agree. I do agree. I think she's really nice.
I think she's on her way to being a strong character. I think at that stage of the game, she's still very young-minded, and I think the act of shooting Klebb at the end would be the making of her, and it'll toughen her up. Going through that experience, she could then become a stronger character in that way later. But at that stage of the game, I would say not. So should we say goodbye to Tanya?
I agree. So there she is. There's Tatiana Romanova. So we'll say goodbye to her. Now, so we're down to Madeline Swan and Fiona, and honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to separate these.
Now, Fiona is like your favourite Bond girl, isn't she? So I think she looks absolutely stunning. She's got an amazing body. She's probably one of the best villainesses in the series. Her character's super strong. She doesn't mind killing. And Bond never gets one over on her. Does she twist at the end? But does she lose points for being a ginger or not?
I don't know. I think it kind of adds to her viciousness as a villainess.
Absolutely, good stuff. Just throwing it out there, not being gingist, but yes, no. I think it adds to her sort of the flame-haired vixen kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I must admit, I'm struggling with this one because I feel like if you put them in a room with a bit of girl-on-girl action, which, let's face it, we'd all want to see some of that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who'd come out on top of that. I don't know, because Madeline's very tough. She doesn't.
She can handle a gun.
She can handle a gun. She can handle herself, as can Fiona. So I think this might have to be passed out to the JBR family, Chris.
I think it's going to have to be. I really do, because I can't choose one. I mean, Fiona's probably, she is my favourite Bond girl, or at least one of them. I think she's fantastic. But Madeline Swan was brilliant, intelligent as well. So I think it has to. I think it has to. I thought we were getting on a roll where last week it was Solitaire, boom, easy. Melina Havelock before, boom. This one, it can't do it. Can't do it. Shall we put Tatiana into the mix as well? Tanya into the mix, just to see if people want to vote her, or should we just stick with these
think
two?
we've got rid of Tatiana.
She has to. Yeah, no,
she doesn't stand up with the other two, I don't think.
No, she definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
So we're looking at character specifically, but if you yourself can't decide as a listener, then looks is the other thing. But really, we want to get who is the best character.
Yes,
but they're both so strong, aren't they?
The idea, yes, if you can possibly keep your trousers on during this process and think purely on strength of character, let's do that. But you're allowed to plunder the depths of the physical nature of things as a decider. I know who I would decide out of those two purely based on that. I know who
Warren Brigham would decide as well.
Okay, go on then. Who would Warren have?
The same as me.
Which would be Fiona.
Yeah.
See, I'd be Madeline. That's the field I would plough personally. But that's not the name of the game anymore. Got to go on strength of character, Chris. We can't demean these people by going purely on the boobs.
Equally, they're both great characters as well. So that's what we're going to do. So here we go. So we've got the lovely Madeline Swan there, looking delectable, but also brilliant and strong and excellent. And we've got the app.
So I love that, looking beautiful, but also brilliant and strong, and a strong character.
And we've got the absolutely deadly assassin, femme fatale. There she is, Fiona Volpe. So we'll put both those. I'll do the little old voting thing.
Yes.
Put the poll up and then see what we get. For next time. Tough round. It's just going to get tougher and tougher, isn't it?
You could call it a polar even nova.
Oh, you could.
Or not.
Very good.
I don't know if that really works, but
It would have worked if she was in it, but we've already done her, haven't we?
Yes, that's true. Good stuff. Cool. So that about rounds out today's episode of James Bond Radio. Octopussy is in the bag. We've explored it to as much detail as one could possibly explore it, I think. So, as is per usual, it's time to turn it over to the JBR family and see what you think about Octopussy. So, it's one of the listener review episodes coming up next time. So, basically, you get 90 seconds. Come over to jamesbondradio.com, click the leave us a voicemail message button on the right hand side. Leave us your Octopussy review in 90 seconds. We'll stitch them all together, and that will be episode number 106 of James Bond Radio. Are you excited about that, Chris?
It will. And you know what? I think this is going to get so many dividing opinions.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get, like the last couple, I think if someone had liked the film, they'd say it. If someone didn't, they didn't really bother. But I think there's so much animosity from one camp that we're going to get a real divide of absolutely really love it, enjoy it, can't believe it, why did they do it, what a nightmare. And I think we're going to get both sides, and it'll be good to hear both sides, because obviously that's kind of what we want to hear.
So whether you're a lover or a hater or somewhere in between, just send us a message. We'll get it in the episode, and it'll be interesting to have a listen. So once again, head to jamesbondradio.com, look at the button on the right hand side, send us the voicemail through your computer or your phone, and you'll be good to go. Sorry I interrupted you, Chris. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, looking ahead to our next movie review, obviously it's a little while away. A View to a Kill. What are your thoughts?
This is another one, yes, that again gets a lot of flack, but this one is almost exclusively, I think, to do with Roger's advanced age at that point. Like, that seems to be if everybody picks on the clown suit for Octopussy, it's that they pick on for A View to a Kill. Again, because of our rule of not watching the films until we review them in the podcast, it's been a while since I've seen it. I personally feel A View to a Kill is going to be one of those that is going to be better than I remember it, with some drawbacks, namely a particularly screamy Bond girl. That's probably going to be a drawback. I think, and a few other things. But there's definitely some real top drawer stuff in A View to a Kill as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a review.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, me too.
Cool.
Good stuff.
So
Then
that's podcast 105 in the bag. So James Bond Radio will return with the listener 90-second review of Octopussy. Now, thanks for listening. I've been Chris Wright.
And I've been Tom Sears. And James
we
Bond
will
Radio will return in 2 weeks. We traded sides. I usually do that bit and it threw me off when you claimed it. And now we've ended the episode in a complete mess. It's all Chris's fault.
But it's brilliant. It is my fault. But we will see you next time.
See you then, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye!